Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. You guys know what time it is. It's Thursday. We got the entire crew here with us. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, Detroit Kool-Aid, a.k.a. Brandon Dent, JB, and of course, KG. The entire crew is here with you. Welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. A lot to get to today. I want to start off before we get into anything. I know the Pistons played last night, and I don't, you know what? I kind of missed out on my opportunity here, guys, because you see that little stat that if you bet against the Pistons, if you were to bet against them, the start of this losing streak, you'd be up like 10, 20 G's, whatever it is.
Ooh.
I missed out. I did. But guess what? They lost again. We'll talk about what Gilbert Arenas said, though, later in the show, later in the second hour, talking about Ausar Thompson. Don't really care about the game itself. They lost. It is what it is. That losing streak, they're probably going to break the record, Sam. But before any of that, how you doing this morning?
You know, I actually got one of the better nights of sleep that I've had in a long time. Was in bed before 10, so I'm feeling fresh as a daisy this morning. So all of the hot takes, I'm definitely more like fresh and ready. So you'll see what I got to say today.
I'm kind of scared.
I mean,
because I've heard some takes of yours when you're tired.
Yes.
So now you're full of energy. I don't know what you got for me today.
I'm a whole new man.
We're gonna break down what C.J. Gardner-Johnson, or CD Deuce, said on X yesterday, responding to Cam Newton. We played that video yesterday of Cam Newton kind of throwing some shade at Jared Goff. Well, CD Deuce didn't appreciate it, and he had his own thoughts on it. We'll discuss that. That's what's up. I got some breaking news with the starting offensive line for the Lions. They're back. Taylor Decker practiced. Frank Ragnow practiced. That's a good sign. It's a great sign. We're going to preview some of that Lions-Broncos game today. We'll start tomorrow. We'll get into all the details, but 8:15 in a little bit here, about 12 minutes. We'll talk about the Lions opening up as 4.5-point favorites. Then the line jumped to 5.5-point favorites. Wow. That's where we're at. 8:30, John Macroon will join the show as well. 8:45, because it is Thursdays with John Macroon. You guys know what time it is. We're going to get John on to break down what not only the Bears game, but preview the Broncos game. 8:45, we're going to talk about Jared Goff and just kind of previewing his matchup this week against a team that's the number one team in takeaways. They have Takeaway Thursday during the week. Like, this team prides themselves on taking the football away. It'll be a good matchup. 9 o'clock, we got some footage of Aaron Glenn kind of talking about some changes of the secondary. Brian Branch, why he went down in snaps. He was typically playing 80-90% of the snaps. Last week played about 50-ish, 58, I believe, percent of the snaps. So his explanation on that. Kendall Vildor getting more reps. Iffy getting more reps as well. Some changes coming. And then, of course, like I said earlier, 9:16 and 9:30. We're going to talk some Pistons. At 9:16, we'll break down Gilbert Arenas' comments on Ausar Thompson, talking about why Ausar, averaging 10 points as a 20-year-old, he would, quote, not be in his future. We'll break down that interesting quote from Agent Zero in the 9:30. We're going to ask the question. I want Kool-Aid to answer it. He's on the stand today. Kool-Aid's on the stand. This is the court of the people, and Kool-Aid's on the stand. Will the Detroit Pistons break the all-time NBA record for consecutive losses? I'm just going to ask him straight up, and we're going to go through the schedule. And this is where we're at right now, guys. Yes, we're going to have some fun with it, of course. But as of right now, let's open up with the C.J. Gardner-Johnson stuff, or the CD Deuce stuff, his new name is. JB, if you got the tweet. If not, I'll read it off from his ex directly.
I do. Just give me 1 second.
You're good. I'll read it before you put it up. So,
I got you.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson put up on X yesterday, responding to Cam Newton, calling Jared Goff a game manager. Okay, and here's CD Deuce's response. He says, if Cam talking about JG, then what are you? Last time I checked, you couldn't manage a game. By the way, that's a bar. Last couple of years for Cam Newton weren't great. Stop coming for my QB. Bring me on so we can talk Funky Wednesday. And for those who don't know, Funky Friday is Cam Newton's podcast. So CD Deuce calling his shot. I actually, you know what? I actually agreed with Cam Newton calling JG a game manager, because I think he's true. I do think him calling Dak a game manager a little aggressive. I didn't hate Cam's comments, but I do love that CD Deuce was the first to defend his teammate. I actually appreciate that. Because he didn't have to do that. He could have sat there and just been quiet, but he spoke up about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously good news that CJ Gardner-Johnson, even though he hasn't been part of the team in terms of playing with them, he still rides for his guys and he defends his guys. And honestly, I've kind of alluded to this yesterday. I agreed with a lot of what Cam Newton said, although I think Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott are a tier above Jared Goff and maybe even Tua Tagovailoa, although I think Tua is also better than Jared Goff. But Cam Newton is not the person that I want to hear it from because, and I actually just got this stat up right now, Cam Newton had one really great MVP season, but the next season, 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, completed 53% of his passes. So the last person I want to hear from about managing a game is Cam Newton because you want to talk about overrated. You want to talk about a one-year wonder. Cam Newton was closer to that than being a superstar. And I was the biggest Cam Newton fan at Auburn and him coming out, but his career was a little bit of a disappointment. Overall,
one of the greatest seasons in college football.
Probably, I'd say the greatest.
The greatest. One of the, doesn't matter, but you are correct there. Cam Newton, I mean, one of the most electric college players of all time. Now, early Cam Newton, I would not ask that question, what game did you manage? Because Cam Newton was an MVP. This is a man who was, I think people kind of forget how good he actually was early on in his career. I think what people remember is the last couple of years after he injured his shoulder. And yeah, that man couldn't manage a game. After the shoulder injury, he didn't look like Cam Newton from before. But JB, you'd like C.J. Gardner-Johnson kind of barking back at Cam Newton? You appreciate that?
Yeah, I can respect that, definitely. I mean, he's sticking up for his quarterback, and he's got his back. Obviously, a lot of people on this Lions team have Jared Goff's back, and that's fair to say. He's a soldier for the Lions, and, hey, you can't say anything more, but I appreciate GJ for doing this and for stepping up. Maybe Cam Newton will respond back and be like, hey, you know what? Come on the show. Let's talk about it. Let's air all this out because, hey, it could get a lot uglier than what it is right now. I can say that. Yeah,
and I trust me, I really do believe the Lions will re-sign this man, and I hope they do. I hope CD Deuce is a part of the Lions' future for a long time. I do, because he's the battery pack of this defense, and you could tell they miss him now more than ever. There's no doubt about that. Please re-sign CD Deuce.
See, I'm not quite willing to go there just yet because he hasn't played really all year. I mean, he played the first couple of games. If he comes back later on in the season and helps this defense and maybe helps the team get a playoff win or two, then I will be open to it. But I'm not into re-signing guys because they defend Jared Goff on Twitter.
No, that's not. Well, I just think also he signed a one-year deal and he got injured again.
Sure.
I listen. That contract he probably expected he was going to get is going to be nowhere near that number.
That's fair. He's probably going to get a team-friendly deal again.
And we know how good he typically is. So I would be okay with that. Jordan says, do you think we can get him on another prove-it deal since he didn't play? I think potentially yes. Because CJ Gardner-Johnson probably thinks he deserves a long-term deal. Maybe the Lions don't give him that. Maybe another one-year deal incoming. I'd be okay with that. I have no issue with that at all. In other news, I do want to bring up, like I said before, Taylor Decker back at practice. Frank Ragnow back at practice. For the concerns about Jared Goff, yes, he hasn't played well lately, but also with that comes he hasn't been protected, and there you go. Lions Wire put out an article yesterday. Lions get their starting offensive line back at practice. This is huge news because it seems like even though, Sam, they have one of the best offensive lines in the league, it's hard to, call them the best when they're just never on the field. Now they're going to be on the field hopefully this week. That's great news. Great news.
So are we going to get now Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, and Penei Sewell all together again?
The boys are back.
Oh my God! If that's the case, then I can definitely see why this line moved up to 5.5 because with a full intact offensive line, I know we're going to get to predictions a little bit more later and tomorrow, I think that the Detroit Lions have the clearly superior team, whereas if you're missing a couple of your most important offensive linemen, particularly Frank Ragnow, then the teams are more even, then it might open up a window for the Denver Broncos to steal one. But with a full intact offensive line, that running game, they can get play action going. Jared Goff will be more protected. That is the recipe for the Lions winning games because they look like a machine sometimes with a full intact offensive line. It's the best in the NFL to me when it's all healthy.
And Frank Ragnow spoke to the media yesterday, and one thing he did say, and it's so true, we all know this, he says the team goes as the offensive line goes. How well we play depends on how well the team plays. Typically offensively, of course. And he's so right about that. I mean, this team offensively kind of lives and dies with how well the offensive line plays. If you get those guys fully healthy, again, against a Broncos team that's playing very well, it's everything to me, especially with Jared Goff. For him to be protected, we know what he is. He needs to be protected. He needs a clean pocket. He's one of the worst quarterbacks getting pressured. It is what it is. It's not even me dissing Jared Goff. I'm just reading this. That's just the facts. So if you get your full, healthy 5 guys back, it's great. It's amazing. And you get Graham to play his natural position, and you get Frank to come back. So it's good news. Let's go to break here. When we come back, we'll get into the Lions being 4.5-point, now 5.5-point. I have to check the line because it might have moved even this morning. Point favorites over the Broncos. Are you confident the Lions can bounce back? We'll talk a little bit about some matchups I like for the Lions and kind of the threat that the Denver Broncos pose for the Lions, because there's some areas they thrive, and the Lions got to watch out, no doubt about it. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Hamlin Pub. So let me do it. Have you wanted to be at a bar where you're known as a regular? We have just the place for you. Head to one of Hamlin Pub's 7 locations and experience where everyone's a regular. Whether you're enjoying half-off pizza on Thursday, game day specials, available all throughout Michigan sports and NFL games, Hamlin Pub is the place. Visit a location today and experience your new favorite pub for all things sports.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Have you ever wondered where all the finest restaurants get their steaks? It's Fairway Packing Company, providing Michigan restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef for over 60 years. But now you can buy these cuts of meat for yourself at the Steak Shop by Fairway Packing Company. Prime porterhouse, A5 Japanese New York strip steak, dry aged Wagyu beef tomahawk. Delicious. Get to the Steak Shop today. Enjoy fine wine, have a private party, and get the finest cuts of meat anywhere. The Steak Shop on Mack Avenue in Grosse Pointe Woods, or order online, fairwaypacking.com.
We've just received word. The world's cannabis supply has vanished. The public is outraged and has taken to the streets in response to this tragedy. The individual responsible acted alone, and we can only hope they will make things right soon.
Join Woodward Sports and Long Drink live this Saturday for the official Lions VIP tailgate party. It's at Eastern Market in Shed number 5, and it is going to be a bash starting at 5 p.m. until game time Saturday nights in Detroit for the big pregame. Wow! For their big matchup versus the Denver Broncos. The official Lions tailgate is back and better than ever. How would you like to pregame it with Woodward Sports and be treated like a VIP? Food, beverages, and entertainment all included.
What?
Get your tickets online today at bullseyeeventgroup.com or win some from Woodward Sports today. Just subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on IG, and direct message Lions VIP.
Wow. Bullseye Event Group, huh?
Very, very excited about my read.
Yeah.
About what I had to say.
Hey, pregame show Saturday. Don't forget 5:30,
yes.
7:30. Watch party as well, postgame show, all that stuff. Saturday, not Sunday, of course. Lions play on Saturday, so be tuned in for that. Let's get into it. Let's break down some of the game itself for today. Like I said, Lions opened up as 4.5-point favorites. It jumped to 5.5. Booner, the betting expertise here at Woodward Sports, just said it moved it back to 4. So all that for nothing. I just teased you guys. And it's not even 5.5. It's -4, which I think seems about fair. The home team typically gets like 3 points. So it's basically a pick 'em if it was on a neutral field. It's at Ford Field. Luckily for the Lions, and they need it. They need the home crowd energy. This is a Broncos team that is playing very well. I might have picked them to win 10 games. Okay. But this week, I don't want that to happen. Okay, I want to be wrong about that take, especially for this week and what's on the line for the Lions. I want them to clinch the division. I want them to clinch a playoff spot. And Sam, to do that, you gotta beat Mr. Lego Hair Russell Wilson, as some people would call him. I just found that out yesterday. Neil Rule calls him Lego Hair Russell Wilson. You need to take this team down. It is what it is. Sean Payton, and Dan already mentioned it, he wants to embarrass the Lions, and that sounds about right. Sean Payton, uber competitive, and he's a damn good coach. So they're going to have to be on their P's and Q's. I know Dan talked about it all week, that the discipline, the execution, all that stuff, it's got to be on point this week, because the Denver Broncos will take advantage. They will.
100%. This is not going to be an easy game, but when you're looking at the Denver Broncos, when you're looking at what they do well and everything, one thing really kind of stands out. And this is where I feel even more confident that the Lions can win and they can get right. Because I think if they go into Week 15 10-4, we're a lot happier as a fan base. The Denver Broncos have the worst run defense in the NFL, at least by the numbers. And I know a lot of it was heavily inflated at the beginning of the year, but just listen to this. The Denver Broncos give up 144 yards per game on the ground. And let me give you some examples of games and when they've let, I would say, some inferior teams go off and some good teams go off. They allowed 350 on 8.1 yards per carry to Miami, the game where they gave up 70 to Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. That's kind of understandable, maybe not to that level of 350, but Achane and Mostert, you could argue that they're 1A to Gibbs and Montgomery in terms of backfields. But they also gave up 171 on 5.3 yards per carry to the Bears. And not a lot of that was Justin Fields. It was more to Khalil Herbert. Besides for Justin Fields, would you take the Lions rushing attack or the Bears? I'd probably take the Lions.
Give me the Lions.
The Lions, 100%.
With that offensive line, 100%.
And the Bears went off with Khalil Herbert leading the way.
Your guy.
Yeah, hey, my guy. Yeah, before the season. Not my best prediction, but that's all right. All right, and also the Denver Broncos, when they faced the Jets, they gave up 234 yards on 7.3 yards per carry, primarily to Breece Hall. And Breece Hall's a good running back, but would you take the Lions rushing attack with that offensive line or the Jets rushing attack with that offensive line?
Yeah, give me the
I know,
Lions.
right? Tough. Obviously the Lions. So if the Jets can go off, I'm thinking the Lions can too. And those are some games kind of at the beginning of the year, and you could say, but the Broncos defense improved a lot, and that is 100% true. But recently, they gave up 192 yards on 7.4 yards per carry to the Buffalo Bills. And not a lot of that was Josh Allen. It was primarily to James Cook and Latavius Murray. Would you take the Lions rushing attack with that offensive line or the Bills rushing attack minus Josh Allen with that offensive line?
Go Lions.
Lions, 100%. And not to be outdone, they gave up the Broncos 175 yards rushing on 4.9 yards per carry to the Vikings, primarily to Alexander Mattison and Ty Chandler. I think this one is pretty easy. Alexander Mattison, Ty Chandler with that offensive line, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery with that offensive line. Obviously the Lions, and you wouldn't even think twice about it. And we all know that when the Lions offense is humming, when it's going to its max capacity, that running game is just going down teams' throats every single game. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is the best running back duo in the NFL. And the fact that the Broncos' defensive defense, their rush defense, has been so leaky this season, I think it presents a phenomenal opportunity for the Lions to not put themselves in situations where they do turn the ball over a lot. They're not putting it in the air as much. They're keeping it on the ground. I guess if there's one issue with that, and I'm kind of gonna skim through this really quick. The Broncos, they are tied for the NFL lead in takeaways with 24. And they have 13 forced fumbles, which they recovered, which is kind of like, that's actually incredible, which leads the NFL. But the Lions running backs have not been very fumble prone this year. Jahmyr Gibbs, as a rookie, 0 lost fumbles. David Montgomery has 1 lost fumble this year. So I'm not worried about the Lions running game getting it going, and I'm not worried about the Broncos forcing fumbles on Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I think this is the perfect opportunity for the Lions to get right, to get that running game going again, to play mistake-free football. As long as Gibbs and Montgomery can hang on to the ball and run the football at the clip that they've been doing this year, or even at the same clip that the Bills ran it against them or the Vikings ran it against the Broncos, I think the Lions will be just fine. I feel more confident in the Lions today now that I deep dove into the Broncos more than I did even the day before.
Yeah, me and you are in lockstep here. I want to get more into that matchup at 8:45 for me because I'm with you, Sam. That run defense last in the NFL. And this comment, too, regardless, in the comments says they're bad against tight ends, too. Big game for Laporta loading. Absolutely. That's the other part of it. Now, when you look at the Broncos, their defense, and this is kind of, it's the story of two different defenses and how they've progressed through the season so far. You look at DVOA, which I'm not a big DVOA guy. It's defense adjusted value over average. It's how a lot of people measure your defense. It's basically advanced analytics to determine your defense. It is what it is. But I'll just give you the rankings for the Broncos and the Lions and how they've kind of progressed throughout the season. And this is where it's concerning for me. The Denver Broncos defense by DVOA, weeks 1 through 5, they're 32nd in the NFL, okay? Weeks 6 through 10, they're 9th, okay? They're 9th, weeks 6 through 10. Weeks 11 through 14, they're 6th. You know what that means? They're getting better. They went from 32 to 9 to 6. The Lions, on the other hand, weeks 1 through 6, 3rd. Weeks 7 through 14, 31st. So you have a Broncos defense that's getting significantly better as the season goes on with the takeaways, like you mentioned. But more than that, they're playing better. And then you have the Lions in their defense regressing, which is a concern. Now, the other point is, and what they could take advantage, is that run defense, which you already brought up. They're last in the NFL in run defense. And this is a game, Ben talked about it. This is something they've been struggling to do the last couple of games. Get the run game going. And it's not just running the football, it's, controlling the time of possession and dominating the ground. They were able to do it a little bit against the Bears, but then they bailed on the run. They have to commit, and they're going to get back to it this week. I know they are. And you have Jameer and David Montgomery. I expect a big game out of those guys. And you get the offensive line fully healthy with the 5 guys you expected to play and should have been playing, but injuries have risen and guys haven't been able to play. So you got a healthy offensive line, Sam. You got the worst run defense in the NFL. You got a quarterback that's turning the ball over. And again, he plays a lot better when you can run the football and you can establish play action. To me, this is these things, if they can happen, Lions will get back on track.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And Jordan Lionheart in the chat, he actually asked me this. Do you think Monty and Gibbs will both get over 100 total yards this game? And that's a little aggressive. I don't know if I would necessarily go that far, but it wouldn't shock me at all if the Lions had 200 rushing yards as a team. They've done it before this year. They did it against the Chargers. I'm sure they've done it another time before. I mean, they did it against the Raiders without a shadow of a doubt. I remember that. It was Jameer Gibbs and Craig Reynolds. It is 100% possible for them to do it.
And I want to say this really quickly because this comment says, I want to make sure I read this quickly. Let me see. Let me find it. Let's see. Basically saying how the Broncos, here we go. Gritville. Denver has been decent against the run the last 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yes, that's true.
Even that, and I'll tell you this, against the Chargers, even though they had Easton Stick out there at quarterback because Herbert went down, Eckler still averaged 5.1 yards per carry. And this is a guy who really on the season is having a bad season. I would know. I have him in fantasy. He's averaging 3.7 yards per carry. So he actually is above average, his average yards per carry. So even against the Chargers, Austin Eckler looked a little better. Now, Easton Stick at quarterback, they're going to stack the box. He still was able to go for 5.1 yards per carry. You go back against in the Houston game, that's where they were pretty solid. You had Dameon Pierce average 2.7, and then you had Singletary average 4.5. So they've been a little shaky lately, but again, guys, I'll ask the same question I asked when we brought up the Bears game, not only this recent week, but at Ford Field. Have they faced an offensive line like the Lions? That changes things, and I think people have to understand that too. You can look at, the team they played before, they've been playing better against the run, but this run game, this run scheme by Ben Johnson with the full offensive line healthy, and Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, the best duo in the NFL, I think it's different than just trying to compare apples to apples. I think that this run game is going to cause problems for the Broncos. I know it is. And if you don't want to give the ball up and you want to avoid takeaways, which the Broncos are good at, keep the ball, just run the ball, man. Run the ball, take some pressure off Goff, keep your defense off the field, stop putting them in terrible situations, and this game should go how we expect it to go.
Yes, and to respond to that the last 3 games, the Denver Broncos rush defense has been good. Yes, it has, and I won't deny that, but the previous 2 weeks prior to that, after their bye week, by the way, they gave up a bunch, what would I say? They gave 192 yards on 7.4 yards per carry to James Cook and Latavius Murray. What do we always talk about when it comes to the Bills? If if only they had a run game. That run game worked very well against the Denver Broncos, and then the next week they gave up 175 on 4.9 yards per carry to Alexander Madison and Ty Chandler, and that was 4 and 5 games ago. So they have had some recent history of poor rushing performances as well. And as you said, the Broncos have not faced an offensive line quite like the Detroit Lions is, and the only two good rush offenses that by the numbers are better than the Lions they've faced are the Miami Dolphins, and they got lit the F up. I mean, that was a 70-20 game. And then the Chicago Bears, who that total is heavily inflated by Justin Fields being such a good running quarterback. But when it comes to their running backs, I would say that they are fairly average on that one. And we all know the Detroit Lions, none of their rushing total comes from their quarterback. It's all based off of that duo in the backfield. So I expect a huge game from this Detroit Lions offensive line and the running game. And if they do that, I have no doubt that they can come away with a W.
Yeah, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, KG. Jahmyr Gibbs, last 2 games, he's had a run in each game of 36 yards. Mm-hmm. Like, at this point, it's not about if, it's when he busts for another 36-yard run. It's just, it is what it is. And you probably do it this week against the Broncos.
Absolutely. You definitely expect a big game from Jahmyr, especially when you have David Montgomery to get those tough yards and get the inside the tackle yards. You expect them to have a good game on the outside. Their front four has not been good this year. They have better corners, a better secondary than they do a front four. So you definitely want to see the Lions pound the rock this week.
I'll tell you what, let's go to break. I'm going to get John all hooked up here so we can get his thoughts on the matchup itself and much more. But right now, we got to hear about our friends from Premier Pets, Sam.
Premier Pets, yes. Probably my favorite read of all to do because I get to talk about my orange cat Milo and my golden retriever Jake. Here it is. When it comes to your pet, don't settle. I don't settle when it comes to my golden retriever Jake and my orange cat Milo. Give your pet the best like I give my pet the best. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Family owned and operated for over 30 years with 13 Metro Detroit locations, over 60 brands of food, lowest prices, and curbside home delivery. Premier Pet Supply, give your pet the best. Visit their website at premierpetsupply.com.
Let me tell you about our friends over at Jack Labrador, guys. It's a lot of fun. Think of it as rock, paper, scissors, but on steroids. You can play with your friends. It's a good drinking game to play. You get the cards. You can put them in a stocking stuffer for Christmas. I think it's the perfect gift for any one of your friends or family. Jack Labrador. Check it out. You can scan the QR code above or go to www.jacklabrador.com to get your deck today.
Calling all landscapers. This is Darren McCarty. I'm at Outdoor Equipment Co. How would you like to landscape like a legend? How about a bad boy zero turn? And even a chainsaw. And even a weed whipper. Whether you landscape for your job or landscape for fun, get all your equipment from Outdoor Equip Co., the official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan grown, family owned. OutdoorEquipCo.com.
Woodward Sports own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot off the press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
How would you like to take a $100,000 Vegas getaway? Take your friends and live it up in the city that never sleeps. It's the Centron Energy Drink. Drink it and live it. Purchase a 24-pack today and enter to win. Register at drinkcentron.com/Vegas and buy Centron at your local Meijer store. Centron, the healthier energy drink with great taste. Look good, feel great, and be the best version of yourself with Centron. drinkcentron.com/Vegas.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Guys, do we even need an introduction? I mean, the Doc is here. It's Thursday. John Macaroon, the man, the myth, the legend, the publisher of all Lions, and of course, the host of the Detroit Sports Podcast, the ball knower, joining the show. Appreciate you joining the show as always. I want to start off before I get into the Lions. Just how you doing this morning? How you feeling coming off that tough loss this week? I know you had a lot of content to write about, but how you feeling today?
Yeah, definitely a tough loss. I know people are regarding the Lions heading into the postseason, final month of the season, but they still have 4 games to get right. Real quick before we get started, just want to give a quick shout out to Sean Baligian, one of the big inspirations why I even started to try and get into the media and podcasting. I know he might be going through a rough time right now, but the man will land on his feet. Sean Baligian, a great legend, a big inspiration for Doc, the Detroit Sports Podcast, even was willing to be interviewed by myself when I first started the project. I have a lot of respect for that man.
Yeah, same here, man.
Sean Baligian's
Baligian.
the fucking man.
Yeah, we
love Sean Baligian.
It's a big Sean Baligian fan club here. You can't keep a legend down like that for long, so he'll be back. I love that. Well said, John. I want to ask you, enough about the Bears game. Let's move forward. Denver Broncos, they're playing well, John. They're number 1 in takeaways. You got an offense that's kind of struggling to get going now. You get an offensive line fully back, healthy. You got a defense in the Broncos, at least run defense, that's last in the NFL. You look at this as an opportunity for the Lions to finally just get the run game back on track and not have to bail on it midway through the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker return back to practice. The offensive line hasn't been stellar the last couple games. And if you can't get to protect Jared Goff, you can't establish the run game, your offense is null and void. And I think that when you see a Denver Broncos defense, the way in which they played over the last stretch, you recognize they're dangerous. They're coming in to play at a high level. Mentor versus teacher, mentor versus student. I can't wait to see how the Lions match up against the Broncos. 2 very similar teams. Yeah, absolutely. The early analysis would be, you want to run the football, and it would open things up for Jared Goff and hopefully get this offense back on track. And I think everybody wants to see it. Do it in the third quarter. I mean, the issues that they have coming out of halftime, really inexplicable that they can't solve it, but I'm expecting the Lions to definitely establish the run and try and get play to Jared Goff's strengths, because if you don't, it could be more of the same with his issues.
Yes, John, it is no secret that the Lions, for the better part of 2 months, haven't played their best football, but they've managed to stay afloat. I mean, they're still 9-4. They're still in the driver's seat to win their division. But what has been the most concerning trend to you with the way the Lions have played as of late?
Yeah, very, very sloppy football, undisciplined. When Dan Campbell expresses that his football team is not following exactly the game plan and playing undisciplined, that indicates a lot of things. It indicates a football team that is not trending in the right direction. You recognize all the turnovers. I mean, obviously, clearly, Aiden Hutchinson making a key mistake at a critical time. Dan Campbell prides his team on shining in those critical moments, not jumping offside on 4th and 13 and having a play in which you leave Jerry Jacobs alone to get buried by the Bears' best wide receiver. So the difficulty with the Lions is they're not playing their best brand of football. They're trending in the wrong direction. So I'm definitely concerned about the turnovers. Obviously, Jared Goff with the interceptions, the fumbled exchange, he's not playing his best football. And I think when we look at a football team that is going to be in the postseason, I mean, it's almost a 99% shot. This team is going to be in the postseason. And I get people's panic. You should be panicked, because the goal is not to just get to the postseason. It's to compete. It's not to host a home playoff game and then get spanked by your opponent. The way in which the Lions are playing, they're not making adjustments to what others are doing. The Bears definitely played a zone defense and tried to take away the middle from Jared Goff. Where were the adjustments? It felt like Ben Johnson just wanted to power through and run the football when it wasn't working in the second half. And you're wondering, okay, can the Lions? Now, the book is out. The book is out on how to stop Jared Goff and limit Amon-Ra St. Brown in that offense. Can this Lions football team adapt and adjust moving forward? Because the book is out on how to make some plays and stop the Lions. And if they fail to make those critical adjustments, the postseason's not going to go well at all for the Lions.
John, and one thing I've been, and I know I asked you this every single week, but I'm going to keep doing it, John. How does Jameson Williams play 60% of the snaps and get one target, which was like 5 yards short of him? How does that make any... At this point, it seems like Jameson Williams, who's never gotten more than, 2-3 catches in a game, and really more than he had 6 targets this year in a Ravens game where you're just basically throwing Hail Marys down the field. It doesn't really... To me, it's not a true 6 targets. He should be getting more than 3 targets a game. John, can you explain that to me? What the hell is going on with Jameson Williams?
Yeah.
And he's basically just a decoy out there at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to go back to what Dan Campbell said. What were the initial goals this year for Jameson Williams? It was not yards. It was not catches. It's just do the fundamentals correctly. Line up properly. Understand your route concept. Understand your responsibility against different looks on defense. So obviously the man has talent. When you see him get the ball, you can't teach that kind of speed. We all want to see him be used like Tyreek Hill is. But Tyreek Hill is further along in his career. And at this point, we just have to accept the Lions are not drawing up plays for Jameson. I had an opportunity last week after the media kind of all talked to Jameson. I walked up to him and just asked. I said, look, there was a play, in the game where it looked like you were wide open, but Jared didn't get you. It seems like I'm seeing on film, you're always open, but you're not getting the ball. And he looked at me point blankly and said, I'm not the number one read on these routes. I'm not the number one read on a lot of these plays, which indicates to me, obviously, they're not drawing up a lot of plays for him. He's going to be in the game plan, handful of plays at this point. And similarly to your talk that you're going to have about Brian Branch, teams try incrementally to give guys more and more and more to see what they can handle. And unfortunately, at this point in time, the Lions are taking it very slow with Jameson Williams. You and I think Sam, everyone would believe you want to give this guy the football more. But when you got St. Brown, when you got Laporta, you got 2 running backs, you got an offense that's purring, they don't want to take the time right now to involve Jameson Williams more than what he's getting. And so unfortunately, this is what it's going to be. 2 to 3 catches, maybe an explosive here or there, but that's going to be it. I don't see Jameson Williams just lighting up the stat sheet. He'll get more primary read routes, but I don't think he'll end up having the targets like Amon-Ra St. Brown did. And it took Amon-Ra St. Brown 10 full games before he got acclimated with Jared Goff. It's going to take time, guys, and unfortunately, you got to wait to 24 to get the full Jameson Williams experience.
See, John Macron just gave us that inside information. Look at that J-Mo even talking about. You know what? I'm also proud that J-Mo could have been like, yeah, I don't know either, John. I'm not getting the football. It's just BS. But it seems like he handled it pretty maturely. So that's good news.
No, that's 100% good news. And for anybody who watches this show, you know how I feel about Jameson Williams. And I've had lots of debates about him with pretty much the whole city of Detroit. So, John, I just got to ask you this. What percentage of the blame for Jameson Williams' lack of production would you say goes to him?
Yeah, I would say 35%. Ben Johnson, obviously when you look at it, if I'm Jameson Williams, I'm commanding the football. I'm going out publicly and saying, give me the football. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand he's trying to be professional, trying to work within the framework of everything going on. But look, he's still a young player, still learning his way. Obviously was dealing with drops. And for Jameson Williams to earn more opportunity, Dan Campbell said he's earned more and more targets. He's playing better. He's inching along. So I expect him to get more opportunities. And part of it is he's not involved. He can't force Jared Goff to throw him the football. And you recognize when there's opportunities for him to run deep, Goff can't get it to him. I mean, that ball that Goff threw early in the second half, I believe, was woefully short. It was terrible. It was just one of those things in which when in an offense that, like Ben Johnson, that is so pinpoint in terms of route concept, in terms of timing, route depth, it's so pinpoint that it's just going to take time for Jameson Williams. It's not all his fault. He's still a young player. It's mostly Jared Goff and the coaching staff's fault for not using a weapon that you have in a much better way.
John, what do you think about the switch up in the secondary? You got Kendall Vildor out there getting snaps, and he's kind of a guy that described as kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can play multiple positions. You got Iffy back out, obviously, after he recovered from that hand injury. Are you a fan of some of the changes AG's been making? How would you kind of evaluate this defense as of late? Because I do appreciate at least AG making a switch, because this Jerry Jacobs, he's struggling lately, John. There's no way around it. He's struggling.
Yeah, they're looking for answers. And obviously you've seen now Ifeatu Melifonwu has taken the place of Tracy Walker. It has been unfortunate for Walker in that, the Lions are starting to trend toward moving away from him. Obviously having Brian Branch, get in some packages at safety. But yeah, it's interesting in regards to Jerry Jacobs. Look, unfortunately in the NFL, he's undersized. He's a very physical cornerback. He can do some things with fundamentals and being positionally sound. But when opponents need the chunk yards, they pick on two players, and that's Will Harris when he got out there and Jerry Jacobs. And it's unfortunate. You saw the vast difference that the matchup between DJ Moore and Jerry Jacobs is not fair. It's not fair in any capacity. So obviously, Aaron Glenn and the defense are looking for any answers. Look, it's patchwork. It's not going to wow anybody. It's not going to be a situation in which it's going to make drastic differences. You don't have a true lockdown number one corner, and it's evident that teams are recognizing how to attack the Lions secondary. With Brian Branch, it's a situation in which obviously a rookie, and Aaron Glenn obviously wanted to give him more and more and more. I spoke to it when we talked about Jamison Williams. But unfortunately, when you give a player more and more and more, it just puts a lot on their plate, and the effectiveness wasn't exactly there. So after Brian Branch's injury, his play against the Bears, his snap count went down to around 55%, I believe, when he's been playing 95% of the snaps. And Aaron Glenn said, look, when players are in a situation in which they're young, what you do is you kind of take a little bit off of their plate. So he wants Brian Branch to focus specifically on the nickel cornerback spot, shine like he did early in his career, and then probably next year you can have this Swiss Army knife like Brian Branch play multiple spots. It's overwhelming, guys. It's not easy in a tough defensive scheme to understand all the concepts and the quick adjustments you got to make. It takes time. It takes mistakes. It takes all this full rookie year for Brian Branch to learn everything and get it down. And similar to how Glenn treated C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the Saints, this is how they're going to work with Brian Branch. I know it stinks to not have one of your best playmakers play 100% of defensive snaps, but Aaron Glenn's making do with what he's got, and it's just a lack of talent.
Sure. And yeah, when it comes to their defense, talent they're a little deficient in some places and also pretty injured when you look at some of the big players who haven't really contributed this year. But amongst all that, what is something that the Denver Broncos do that should scare you as a Lions fan?
Yeah. Guys, get ready. I can't wait for this matchup. Literally, Sean Payton, Dan Campbell cut from the same cloth. They might start the game with 2 onside kicks. It's going to be two teams that are going to be playing very aggressive. You heard the rhetoric coming out of Allen Park. Dan Campbell's nervous that Sean Payton wants to hang 50 on the Lions. Alex Anzalone echoed those sentiments. We've heard kind of why. Sean Payton, the ultimate competitor, he wants to rub the nose in it, and he wants the Detroit Lions to feel the wrath of what he's got going on. And you got to give credit to the Broncos. They've made a comeback. And what they do lately, obviously that defense struggled to start the year, but boy, guys, they're forcing turnovers at a very high rate. They sacked the quarterback. They come from the outside, and Nick Bonito, check out his film. Oh my goodness. I think the Broncos have 35 or 34 sacks this year. Half of them have come from the outside linebacker spot. They're going to pin their ears back and try to knock Jared Goff out of this game. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to try and limit what the Lions do. They're going to have to, the Broncos are going to be targeting Amon-Ra St. Brown to take him away from the game. I'm very concerned about the Broncos defense. They're going to be very aggressive. They're going to look to pin their ears back and get after Jared Goff where they can have success. So it's going to be very incumbent on this Lions football team to execute, play well late, and remember that this Bronco team, even if you get out to a couple touchdown lead, they're not going to give up. This is going to be probably one of the best games the Lions face this year. But I do believe they're going to be hyper-focused. They're going to want to win one for Dan Campbell because if you lose to Sean Payton, you're going to have one frustrated Dan Campbell. It's a big game, guys. If the Lions win the next 2 games, they get to the postseason. The motivation should be there for the Lions to step up and stop playing such sloppy football.
What do you make of Russ, John? I mean, Russ last year, it seems like the common theme everyone's saying, at least I listened to the coaches speak, the Lions coaches, Lions players, it seems like it's confidence is the common answer for Russell Wilson. He's playing with a lot of confidence. Your take on kind of how he's been playing this season, how he's looked different. And the other thing I want to mention is that deep ball to Courtland Sutton. I think that's going to be a problem, John, unless you got Kirby Joseph making plays. But if I had to point one thing out that I'm worried about in the passing game, especially with how this secondary's playing, it's that Russell Wilson to Courtland Sutton connection, John. It truly is.
Well, Russell Wilson, to me, is a poor man's Jared Goff. I think that you can get to him. You can get to Russ. I think that obviously, he's a quarterback that earned that hefty contract, and I think the Seahawks made the right call in moving on, getting that haul from the Broncos. And you realize, okay, look, this is a player like any quarterback in the league. If you give him time, he can pick you apart. He can find his weapons. It's going to be important for Aiden Hutchinson, the interior of the defensive line, to force a little bit of pressure, get him out. He definitely can scramble. He definitely can find his targets. Yeah, Cortland Sutton, definitely a weapon that he has. But I don't think that he's a player that can just dominate a football game where he can just do it quarter after quarter, rep after rep, and series after series. I think the Lions have an opportunity to get a pick six, get right defensively against the Broncos. And look, Russell Wilson, I think at times can definitely be a very serviceable quarterback. But at the same time, I think the Broncos will be definitely looking in the draft for next. I know the contract is prohibitive. They way overpaid to get him. But at the same time, if you let him stand there and survey the field, he'll pick you apart. But if you pressure him, you get that opportunity now to have Alex Anzalone fully healthy and getting after it, and you pressure Russell Wilson, he'll give you the football.
We appreciate you, John. Good stuff today. You can check John's stuff out, of course, at Detroit Sports Podcast, or Detroit Podcast, excuse me. Publisher All Lions, and he hosts the Detroit Sports Podcast. Thank you, John. Good luck this weekend. I know you'll be down at Ford Field, and we'll catch you next week, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely down for a Vegas trip, taking Troy Weaver with me, leaving him in the desert on my latest podcast that drops in about a couple hours. I make the case. Guys, Tom Goris, open up your ears, open up your eyes. Nobody's going to LCA. Sell the team chance. You got kids fighting in the stands. The product is so bad. Make the call. Bob Myers. That's the name. Bob Myers has to replace the bum and Troy Weaver. Bob Myers. Call. Make the call. The Pistons are sinking, and it's a disaster day after day. Make the call.
Hey, Bob Myers, that's a great one, John. I can't lie to you. PR reasons, we got to let you go. we appreciate you, John. You're the man. Of course, the doc, the voice of reason, joins us every single Thursday to give his take and all the information he knows. I appreciate it. I loved his response on J-Mo. That's something I didn't even know. He talked to J-Mo privately, and that's J-Mo's answer. He's never the first read on a lot of these throws, even though he's open. Good stuff from John. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk more about Aaron Glenn's comments and kind of ask John about it a little bit. Kendall Vildor, iffy, getting more snaps out there. Your reaction, how do you see this defense playing this week? Are they going to let Russ cook? Hopefully not. All right. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about our friends over at Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness, $10 a month. Your fitness is essential. Russell Wilson probably works out at Planet Fitness. He's so corny. And this is a place he'd go and start working out in front of the entire gym. He's that type of guy. He's got Lego hair, but guess what? Planet Fitness, even if you got Lego hair, it's a judgment-free zone. You could go there, you work out. You might see the president Neil Rule on the treadmill. Why not? For $10 a month? No commitments? Go there. They got trainers. They got everything you need. Planet Fitness, your fitness is essential.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
For over 60 years, Fairway Pack & Co. has provided Michigan's finest restaurants, hotels, casinos with prime beef, Wagyu beef, and dry aged beef. Experience the Fairway difference for yourself today. Visit the steak shop in Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks or order online at fairwaypacking.com. We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show. Here on the Woodward Sports Network. Just got done talking to John McAroon, the publisher of All Lions, and of course the host of the Detroit Sports Podcast. Good friend of the show. He's a great guy, man. And he always, I love having guests on that I leave educated.
Yes.
They make me better, and John always does that. He's a very smart man, a very bright man. All right, let's get to what AG said. If you could, KG, if you guys have the AG clips, you could play them. The AG kind of spoke to the media yesterday. This is, of course, these videos belong to the Detroit Lions, but he gave an explanation on kind of the switch up in the secondary, and he talked a little bit about Brian Branch. So here's that footage.
With him for any particular reason?
The thing that I want to do with that player is let him focus in on one job. I mean, I look at the same way when I had Chauncey, all right, when I was in New Orleans. Listen, he was playing some safety, playing some nickel. I mean, there was a lot within that because of what we asked, like, those guys at that position to do. So I want to make sure that I dial it back for him, let him focus on nickel, let him play nickel. And I thought it was a really good game for him, or as far as the stats, because he didn't get a chance to be productive like he's been. But I thought he did a really good job in just playing nickel. And also, I want to make sure if he got as many reps he could at the safety spot.
Early in the season, Branch was making a lot of plays in that concentrated role.
At the nickel role.
Yeah. In those
Yes.
games where he was playing 100%, he was seeing a little bit more free safety. You were moving around a little bit.
Yeah.
Just felt like it was a little too much on his plate.
No, I don't want to say that. Those are decisions that I want to make, so he can concentrate on the nickel spot and really get that down, because he's a damn good player at that spot, and I want to make sure he plays as much as possible and be the best at it.
Bit more, maybe rotate him and Jerry a little bit. What do you like about him, and why do you want to get him on the field a little bit more?
Well, I would say this about him. He's played like a good amount of football. In Chicago, actually played. I think he started there a couple of years. So he's a common presence. He's a guy that's been around, like I said before. He's very smart, and he understands exactly what we're doing. So we want to continue to try to utilize that. Listen, Jerry's not a guy that we're throwing away, and I don't want anybody to think that. Listen, there's still skins on the wall with that player also, right? He's done some good things for us. But the thing is, man, we got to do everything we can to play at a high level, and we're going to continue to find the guys going to do that for us.
Yeah. So AG kind of speaking to the media there, had a couple interesting comments, talked about Brian Branch a little bit, iffy, Jerry Jacobs, they're not going away from Jerry, but at the same time, Kindle Vildor will be getting some of those snaps as well. He'll be kind of, he's got to get on the field. Jerry Jacobs, with how he's playing, he's not playing great, doesn't mean he can't bounce back. The thing about Jerry, though, early on in the season, Sam, is despite what was happening, he wasn't in always positions to succeed, but he was getting turnovers. And you haven't really been seeing that lately with Jerry Jacobs. It seems like teams are just strictly picking on him. And at that point, when you're allowing over 100 passer rating, again, this secondary, as bad as it is, and they deserve blame, it doesn't help when you can't get pressure on any quarterback. That also does not help when you got to stay in coverage for 7 seconds. But it's nice to at least see when people talk about Aaron Glenn making adjustments, these are adjustments. You implement guys into the secondary, make a change. And I thought Iffy played a good game last week, and I think he should play a lot more.
Sure,
I do.
And there are a bunch of takeaways you can have from Aaron Glenn's presser and just things that you've been hearing. One, Jerry Jacobs has obviously not played well lately, and Kindle Vildor, I think at times he's came in and made some plays, but at the same time, do you really have a choice but to play Jerry Jacobs at least some snaps? Because who else you got at that point? Will Harris? I mean, Kindle Vildor, he's not like an every down kind of player, and obviously Emmanuel Mosley's out for the season. And Ife Melifonwu, that's another one. If he has, I would say this year in limited playing time, I know this is going to kind of sound like over-exaggerated, but a little bit of a revelation. He's played well at times. He's the guy that you sometimes forget about, but when he's on the field, he has made an impact. One thing, though, that I don't know if I agree with, and I think this is playing with fire a little bit, I personally don't want to see Brian Branch's snap count down at all. Because Brian Branch, believe it or not, and I think I know you take what you want from PFF. I know some people don't like it. I personally do. But did you know Brian Branch is the Detroit Lions' highest graded defensive back according to PFF? And if you watch the games, you see it. Brian Branch, I think, has qualified himself into being considered not the least of the Lions' problems, but at the top of the list of guys that you really don't have to worry about. And if you're limiting his snap count, that means you're limiting having one of your best players on the field. And I think that's a little bit concerning because not only is Brian Branch the highest graded Lions PFF defensive back. And on PFF, he is listed as a corner. Brian Branch is the 7th highest graded corner against the run in the entire NFL. And the fact that the Lions have a great run defense, Brian Branch is great against the run. Coincidence? I think not. And obviously, Brian Branch, he's a guy that came out in his rookie year like gangbusters. I think he was the September Defensive Rookie of the Year. He had that pick 6 against Kansas City. He led the team in tackles against Atlanta, and he led the team in tackles at Green Bay. He was obviously very, very good. He ran into some injuries, a little bit of the rookie wall, but even he had that pick at New Orleans that bounced off of the running back's hands and into the hands of Brian Branch that led to a touchdown. He had 3 tackles for loss against Chicago, and in all of those games I mentioned where he's had a tremendous impact, the Lions have won every single one of those games. And also, Brian Branch is 4th on the team in tackles despite missing 2 games, tied for the team lead in tackles for loss, 2nd on the team in pass deflections, and tied for 2nd on the team in interceptions, and has the only pick 6 of any Detroit Lion. So my point is that Brian Branch has been maybe your 3rd best defensive player. I just don't want to see his snap count limited in any way, shape, or form, because he has proven over the totality of the season that he can handle a lot of a workload. And I don't want to see inferior players get playing time just to kind of hone Brian Branch in on something. I think it could backfire.
I see what you're saying, absolutely, because the case, if you say Jeff, well, he's one of your best defensive players, you got to get him on the field, I can't really argue that. But what AG's explanation is we want him to be one of the best slot corners in the league. That's what we want him at. We want him to play one position, because it is a lot for a rookie to play multiple positions. He is a natural safety, played that at Alabama. Now you're asking him to play in the slot now in the NFL. It's an adjustment, so I get where AG's coming from, but also I lean on the side of, you're right. How do you take, especially a bad secondary, how do you take one of your best secondary players off the field? The guy should be playing 90% of the snaps. So it's a little bit of trying to balance a workload. I'm kind of in the middle with it. I don't hate it. We'll see how this kind of affects the defense, because, Sam, if they're getting ripped up over the next couple of weeks and they keep getting torched and Brian Branch is only out there for 58% of the snaps, we're going to have a problem with that. So I do think you're onto something, but I don't mind that AG's we want him to master one position, because he brought up C.J. Gardner-Johnson back in New Orleans and how he was kind of playing everything. He's playing nickel, safety, corner. They wanted him to play one position and be the best at it. I don't hate it, but if you're going to tell me, Jeff, you should have one of your best players out there, I can't really see much to that. I can't. So there is a chance. We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah,
you are correct.
And like I said, Ife Melifonwu, if he gets more snaps and continues to play well, I will be more than okay with it. Kindle Vildor, as I said before, he's somebody that when he was signed, I was kind of like, okay, whatever. But he's made a couple of big plays. He's flashed off the screen a couple of times. Just with Brian Branch, I don't necessarily know if I like the C.J. Gardner-Johnson and New Orleans comparison, because Detroit Lions Brian Branch is better than C.J. Gardner-Johnson ever was in New Orleans. Brian Branch, to me, is a guy that could be a multiple-time All-Pro when it's all said and done. I think he's a guy that is uniquely smart and has a high football IQ, and that was something that was touted on him coming out of Alabama, that he's just a computer out there, and he's also insanely athletic. And for people who are knocking me a little bit about the PFF stats, including one funky Lions fan who I think I've agreed with on nothing in the past month or so, I also mentioned the pick 6. I mentioned leading them in tackles against Atlanta and Green Bay. I mentioned the pick against New Orleans, and I mentioned the 3 tackles for loss versus Chicago. I think it's one of those things where your eyes can see that he's playing very well. It shows up on the stat sheet, and then PFF is just one of those things that kind of confirms the biases that I had. But it's not a bias to say that Brian Branch is a damn good football player. And when you look back at the season, I mean, I know it's tough to say, but he might end up being... It's tough, though, because of Laporta and Gibbs. But as far as being one of the most impactful defensive rookies on the season, if he continues to play well moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And there's also the argument, which, again, Donovan Strong puts in here, which I agree with. The secondary's already getting cooked with him playing majority of the snaps. So he also says, y'all don't understand the nuances of playing multiple positions in the NFL. I think the thing with Branch, and the whole point, and AG kind of spoke about it, the whole point of him playing a specific position and not playing multiple and playing 90% of the snaps is because he wanted to get Iffy out there. And Iffy played well. So I don't mind the adjustment. I think the defense, despite looking at the box score, like they gave up 28, you're like, they didn't play well. But when you actually watch the game, offense didn't put them in the greatest positions either. So we'll see. I don't mind this, to be honest with you. I don't mind Brian Branch mastering playing the slot corner position, especially because it is a foreign position to him. He played safety in college. He's a natural safety. So if it makes Brian Branch better, I'm on board. But Kindle Vildor, I'm watching him.
Yeah.
Because Kindle Vildor, I know we poked fun about the graphic before the season.
Yeah.
The Bears, the 33rd team highlighted the Bears secondary, and they put all these players. Is it the best secondary in NFC North? And they snuck Kindle Vildor in there. And I know we poked fun at him, but now that he's a Detroit Lion, maybe he's got something to give. That's another guy who's versatile. So who knows what they got in Kindle?
I mean, the reality is that as much as I don't want Brian Branch's snap count limited at all, I'd actually like to see him play more. He has had an injury this year, which I'm not saying he's injury prone, but when you're going through the attrition of an NFL season, a lot of times you can't handle the snap load of a rookie when you're used to having a college snap load. But also, this Detroit Lions defense, although I think it hasn't been quite as bad as some people think, it's still, especially in the secondary, to go along with a pass rush that often doesn't help them out. They've given up some pretty big games to guys like Geno Smith and Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love and Justin Fields and the like. So if they're just looking to make some adjustments moving forward so that the secondary plays better, I don't necessarily hate it. I just think taking, in my opinion, their best defensive back off the field at all is a little bit risky. But if it works, they got to try something. Aaron Glenn's probably trying to make an adjustment.
Have to. And you know who else needs to be on the field? I know the chat are talking about it, is Germ. That dude, he accounted for one of the sacks last week, and Dan said they're going to give him more of an opportunity. Germ he's solid. He's solid. I'm not going to sit here, and I know you don't like folk heroes. I'm not going to say that Germ is one of the best linebackers in the league. But if you talk about this linebacker core, and it's very deep, we understand that. And Germ's a guy that's making plays on special teams, and I'm glad he was able to get in there because, again, he got a sack last week. So we're talking about a defensive line that accounted for, 2 sacks last week, I believe? Yes.
Yeah.
They had
Kaminsky and Hutch, and then Germ.
Yeah. Germ, get that man out there more. He's playing well.
He's better at linebacker than Malcolm Rodriguez.
Okay. Well, see, why'd you have to go there?
Because it's facts.
You just got to, to bring a guy up, you got to knock another guy down. You son of a bitch. All right, let's get out of here. When we come back, we'll talk about kind of JG and more of this offense here because, again, the Broncos are number 1 in takeaways. And I believe this is a get-right game for the Lions offense and the Lions offensive line in the run game. Everything, all the above. I think they're going to bounce back against the Broncos. We'll bring that up. We'll get into that discussion. And then, of course, we'll get to the Gilbert Arena stuff at 9:16. But right now, got to hear about our friends from Swiss Insurance.
Do you have football on the brain? Of course you do. Winter ushers in college and professional football. The season's been going along, and this year has been awesome. Winter is also a perfect time to shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network, and they should be covering you too. Ask for Mark at Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
And just like how Sam ran over Malcolm Rodriguez with that stray, I'll tell you about Feldman Chevrolet. Ooh, that's rhyme there. That's kind of a bar. Feldman Chevrolet, Detroit #1 Chevy dealer, 18 locations. Check it out. Visit feldmanauto.com to find the location nearest to you, or you can catch Woodward Sports live from Feldman Chevrolet in Novi every other Monday to recap Lions victories or losses.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy? It's Planet Fitness. Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Gabby is a college student struggling to study for her big exam. Then she discovered Syntron, a healthy way for her to stay awake and focus. Jennifer frequently has chaotic days like this until she gets online, orders some Syntron, and finds her groove. April visited her local grocery store, purchased a case of Syntron, and entered to win the Syntron 100K Vegas giveaway. Pick up your case of Syntron today at any Meijer location or visit drinksyntron.com/Vegas and enter for the 100K Vegas giveaway.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
Glorious Cannabis is dropping a new ice water bubble hash infused pre-roll called Honolulu Blue. It smells so good. It's like the first whiff of a playoff win in 31 years. It's a gassy, aggressive strain named in honor of Detroit football. If you haven't had one of these ice water pre-rolls, you are missing out, man. So smooth. Find them at Dispo Dispensary for 25% off. You can check it out at gloriouscanna.com.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button on the stream. It does help support the show, the algorithm of the show, and it helps it kind of get pushed out there. So we appreciate you guys for that. One thing I did want to bring up, interesting about the Denver Broncos, is their third down defense. It's been elite this season, at least over the last handful of games. They're number 2 right now in the NFL, and I believe Ben mentioned it, Sam Laporta's mentioned it. I think everyone's kind of mentioned it. They know that this Denver Broncos team, once they get you to third down, you're probably punting. That's just how it works. Unless Dan goes for it, of course. But you're probably punting. That's how that works. They're number 1 in takeaways, but then you look at their total defense. They give up almost 400 yards a game. So it's an opportunistic defense. As much as we want to give the Lions flack for their defense, they're 15th currently right now in the NFL. They allow 50 less yards per game than the Broncos. So say what you want about the Lions defense. Broncos defense, at least yard-wise, they're giving up a ton of yards. But, Sam, they're getting turnovers. And that's kind of been the kryptonite of the Lions offense over the last couple of weeks. They can't kind of extend these drives. They're going 3 and out, and on top of that, they're turning the football over and they're putting their defense in compromising positions. The whole story, the Lions, if they're trying to win some games, you got to play complementary football. You have to. You need the offense to be efficient. You need the defense to get stops. You need the defense to get turnovers because, again, if you're not a great defense, turnovers are going to help. Turnovers. That's what I've been preaching for this Lions defense because they're not great. They're good against the run, but their pass defense isn't great. But if they can create turnovers, and a guy like Kirby Joseph, who's not been playing well at all, but if he can create turnovers, that's where Kirby's value comes into play. You're like, all right, Kirby, you give up a 30-yard bomb, but at the same time, if you can get a turnover like he did against the Chargers, very key turnover, then I can live with it. I can live with it. So for me, and I said this earlier, and you mentioned it, you have the worst run defense in the Broncos. And I know that's skewed. It's the entire season. I get all of that. But even with how they've been playing, they're still last in the NFL in run defense. Sam, they have to get back to the run game. And I do believe this will be a breakout game for Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, I know we've seen breakout games. We see the Raiders game. He went for 200 yards. This could be, I think, at least a 100-yard game for Jahmyr because they're going to commit to the run. They're going to depend on it heavily, extend these drives, keep the defense rested. But on top of that, Jahmyr Gibbs, if you kind of look at his production over the last couple of weeks, especially last week, he got as many carries, if not the same, I believe, as Dave Montgomery. Not saying he should consistently be getting more carries, but what that tells me, Sam, is he's been their best running back in terms of, yards per carry and production, especially in the passing game. So I think this could be another big game for Jahmyr Gibbs. I believe that. And it's best for Jared Goff if he goes out there and has a big game because Jared Goff, it'll be easier for him to take care of the football, get some pressure off of him.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs, I've said it before, I already think he is the best running back on this team, and I wouldn't shock me at all if he had another breakout game, and his quest to 1,000 just gets that much closer, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. And if the Lions can run the ball, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, a lot of what the Broncos do well and the Lions have not been doing well lately can be negated because obviously the Broncos, and we obviously mentioned, of course, the Miami Dolphins game, the beginning of the year. The Denver Broncos defense was really, really bad, and they gave up that awful game where they gave up 70 and over 350 rushing yards, but they've also given up some bad ones recently as well. So it's not just the beginning of the year, although total defense, when you look at the Broncos, you have to take into account they've been much better since that Dolphins game. But when it comes to Jared Goff, obviously, if the run game can have a big one, I think that Jared Goff will be just fine. And I personally believe that if Jared Goff does not turn the football over, I guarantee a Lions win. I think it's as simple as that. Because as much as Jared Goff, he has been playing very, very bad lately. In the last 4 games, he's turned the ball over 9 times, all of them in 3 games. He has been pretty awful as of lately. And if you go back to the Baltimore Ravens game, he had a turnover, the interception, the Raiders game, he had a pick 6. But it's funny. Jared Goff, as much as we want to hate him lately, and I've been very, very rough on him. He's also, it wasn't that long ago that he was playing some good football. He's had 5 games this season, 5, in which he has had at least 1 touchdown and no turnovers. You look at the Chiefs game, a touchdown, no picks and a win. The Panthers game, 3 touchdowns, no picks and a win. The Tampa Bay game, 2 touchdowns, no picks and a win. And even recently, 2 touchdowns, no picks and a win versus the Chargers, and 2 touchdowns, no picks and a win at New Orleans. So in those 5 games, he is 10-0 with a He's 5-0 with a 10 touchdown, 0 interception ratio. And if you even want to go to other games, against the Atlanta Falcons, for example, he threw an interception when they were up 13-3. The Lions defense stopped the Falcons, and then he led a touchdown drive on the very next one. And when you look at the Green Bay game at Green Bay, the one that the Lions won, he threw an interception on the first drive, gifted the Packers 3 points, but then the next 4 for the Lions, it was touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that Jared Goff, as bad as it's been lately, as turnover prone as he's been, even though the Denver Broncos have been very opportunistic, this is the game that could be set up for Jared Goff not to have so many turnovers, because I think the running game will set the Lions up in good situations, get them up to an early lead. Jared Goff can utilize play action, and I think he'll have a clean game. I really do, just because I think the running game will be very, very effective.
And on top of that, too, Sam, and I want to bring this comment up because just to give some context, Terrell from FL, a good friend of mine.
It's been kind of negative today.
Terrell says he's coming at John. By the way, don't you ever come at John Terrell. Don't do it.
That was a dick move, Terrell.
Terrell, but he did say they're not playing like a defense that gives up 400 yards the second half of the season. Actually, there is some truth to that, Terrell, but let me explain some context, okay? So they lost 2 games ago to the Texans. And if you look at the score, Sam, you say 22-17, kind of a lower scoring game than kind of in today's NFL. The Texans still had over 350 yards. So it's not about the points. Now, the points, you are correct. It seems like the Broncos are making every football team kind of play their game. That's how it works. But they're still giving up a ton of yards. But that goes back to them being opportunistic. They turn the football over. That's how they operate. You can move the ball on the Broncos, but they're going to get the football back. That's where the Lions, especially with how they've been playing, you cannot do it. You got to take care of the football. Because the Broncos, this could be one of those, it could be one of those 23-20 games, kind of how the Broncos like to play their games, but it doesn't mean the Lions can get over 300 yards on them. That's just how this works. Got to take care of the football, though. KG, your thoughts on the Broncos? Defense gives up a ton of yards, but they take the football away, KG.
Yeah,
so
and they got some dogs in that secondary, man. So pounding the rock is definitely going to be the plan of action, man. And even in the Bears game, the run game was working. Like you said, they just kind of had to abandon it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. You got a big inside presence with David Montgomery, and then you have the finesse with Jahmyr Gibbs. Keep that ball out of the air, keep it on the ground, and then that'll set up the play action. And then we all know when the Lions get in that play action mode, they're dangerous. So you definitely want to see them just keep this thing manageable and keep it on the ground.
Have to. And again, that's beneficiary. It's beneficiary for multiple people. Jared Goff, Ben Johnson. You could set up more plays. You can getting deeper in Ben's bag. What place he wants to get to. Wasn't able to get to some plays last week. I'm sure of it. But let's go to break. When we come back, we'll bring up the Gilbert Arenas stuff because he did kind of take some shots at the old Sar Thompson there with his take. And I don't have a problem with it. We're going to talk to Kool-Aid about A.K. Brandon Dent, who covers the Pistons for Woodward Sports. And we're going to ask him. And he's on the stand today, like I said earlier. He's on the stand. Will the Pistons break that consecutive loss record? I believe it was set by the Trust the Process 76ers at 28, I think the number is. Could be wrong on that. I think it's 28. Pistons are creeping. They're creeping, Brandon. They're coming. And I hate to say it. I hate to. I do. But I think they're going to break that thing. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's go to break, though. First, we got to hear about our friends from Big Boy. So let me tell you about them. Big Boy. Guys, check them out. Big Boy has everything you need. You check out what they have coming to the menu, and they already have it now. You can go there, get their classic potato pancakes, their stuffed potato pancakes. Of course, Southern Comfort Bowl you see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. They have so much more, and they have the gingerbread shake for dessert as well. Check it all out. Down Home Comfort and potato pancakes over at Big Boy.
Savor the heart of home at Big Boy with our all-new Down Home Comfort dishes. Feast on home-style goodness with our Southern Comfort Chicken Bowl, veal parmigiana, and apple pie hotcakes. The Down Home delight doesn't stop there. Potato pancakes are back. Dive into the richness of our perfectly crafted potatoes with our classic potato pancakes and our stuffed potato pancakes. Top off your meal with our new gingerbread shake, a seamless blend of creamy vanilla and sweet gingerbread flavors. Nothing beats the comforting taste of down-home cooking. Enjoy every bite, only at Big Boy.
Stop searching for a vehicle and start finding one. Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac makes it easy. We harness the power of multiple dealerships and own the biggest selection of GM brands in the area to get you the car you need. With the Les Stanford Group, you'll have access to 4 different dealerships, providing you with more makes, more models, and more choices. We're connected to more than 1,000 vehicles, and with so many high-quality CPO vehicles available, you'll find new car quality at pre-owned prices. You can start and end your search at lesstanford.com today.
Let's talk about Outdoor Equipment Company, official equipment provider of Woodward Sports, Michigan-grown, family-owned, Bad Boy mowers, tractors, steel handhelds, and even weed whippers, Liberty trailers, Generac generators, Snow X plows, and salters. Outdoor Equipment Co. has it all. Buy it, rent it, 0% financing, delivery to your doorstep. Just visit their website at outdoorequipmentco.com.
We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. It's time to get into it. Yeah, we're talking some Pistons. Yeah. We're at that point right now. But it's not Pistons as the team. It's just related to a player. Gilbert Arenas had some interesting comments yesterday, and it seems like he always has interesting comments. Gilbert Arenas is a walking clickbait. I love it. It's funny. And he says some outlandish-ish. And here's something he said. You got the video, KG? All right. Here's a video of Gilbert Arenas talking about Asar Thompson and whether he thinks he should be in the Pistons' future.
And this is just me, but it is reality. You're 20 turning 21, averaging 10. You're not in my future.
As a GM?
As a GM. You're about to be a 21-year-old rookie. You're so far, I mean, if I'm going to have him as a defensive player, okay, cool. But I mean, if I'm going to make him like a cornerstone, like he is the cornerstone of my future, who's 2021 right now?
But I mean, shit, think about it though. If from what you just said, if he's averaging 10 as a first-year player, that means he's going to do pretty good for later on.
Nah.
Once he gets used to the league.
Name me the best 20-year-old in the world right now.
In the world or NBA?
In the NBA.
What in the hell was that? And you can tell Rasheed Wallace is sitting there going, what the hell? He's like, if you average 10 points in the league your rookie year, if I'm doing the math correctly, usually you'll get better. That's a good sign. And it's not just the points, Gilbert Arenas. If you watch the film, Asar Thompson provides a lot of things besides just scoring. Kind of like you did as a rookie. You scored 10 points per game. Guess they should have given up on your ass as well, but they didn't. Now, I'll tell you this. Asar Thompson, you can bring up the points, but I'll bring up the defensive versatility, the steals, the blocks, the rebounds, the assists, the presence on the court. Kool-Aid, what in the hell was he talking about? Is Gilbert Arenas, is this man just a clickbait? I think that was all for clickbait, if I'm being real with you.
Gilbert Arenas is a troll, bro. He's a troll.
Has to be.
And I think he knows that Detroit listens, that Detroit fights for their own. And I think when they're trying to get some engagement for their show, they go out there and they say some outlandish stuff. And I'm so glad that Rasheed Wallace kind of sat up like, wait, what? Kind of like all of us too, man. It's Asar Thompson. One of the things that we knew coming into this season was that his offense was going to need a little bit of work. And I think what a lot of us have seen out of his offense is a lot better than what a lot of people expected, honestly. I heard a lot of people say he's just playing against high schoolers. He's never going to make it against NBA defenses. And honestly, as a 3-level scorer, he got some work to do as it relates to three-point shooting. In practices and such, he looks very, very confident. In the games is where he kind of takes a little bit of a step back. And I can understand that. It's his rookie season. But everything else, especially his defense, I don't understand what Gilbert Arenas is talking about at all. His ability to get to the rim, his ability to just throw the ball near the rim and just dunk it. Like, these were things we talked about last year. We said we want to see the Pistons be able to get into more of that type of action, especially as they add more athletes to the squad. And he's not just an athlete. He's a smart basketball player. He's a smart playmaker. He's a smart defender. like he knows when to roll. They're starting to use him more in pick and rolls and dives and cuts and DHOs and such. Like Asar Thompson, if the only thing he has to kind of figure out now is that 3-point shot, I'm all fine for it. And Asar Thompson, another thing, is one of those guys who he's not going to force his will offensively just yet. That's not what he's going to do, especially if he knows that there's some nuances to this thing that he has to learn. So I like what Asar Thompson has put out there on tape. And honestly, I thought he was going to come in and be one of those guys that got like maybe 6 or 7 points, maybe 6 or 7 rebounds per game. He personally has exceeded the expectations that I had for him, or at least what I thought he could reach. And he looks a lot better than I thought. I think second half of the season, much like Cade Cunningham his rookie year, we're going to see Asar Thompson make a serious jump.
Yeah, it's just funny. It feels like Gilbert Arenas was kind of reflecting on his own life when Golden State gave up on him. It seems like he thought that the Pistons should do the same thing to Asar. Just because your first 2 years were in Golden State and you were giving up on Gilbert Arenas doesn't mean the league does that typically. Asar Thompson, I think, has a ton of talent. There's a lot of upside there. And there's a lot to like about Asar. Now, the shooting is a concern. You'd like him to get the shooting percentages up, but we kind of knew that it was a project coming out. I think he provides a lot of value. And for Gilbert Arenas, he is funny. I can't lie to you. He's a professional troll. He is. And I love Rasheed Wallace. But don't make me call Isaiah Stewart Gilbert Arenas. Don't make me call him. I'll call him right now. Come on. Listen, come after you. And last time he did that, Gilbert Arenas, you didn't want any smoke. And that's fair. I mean, Isaiah Stewart is a scary man. Just watch yourself. Just watch yourself.
So here's my thoughts on this all. If you don't believe in Asar Thompson, fine. I think there's reasons why to believe and reasons why not to. And I'm not in the business right now of defending anyone on the Pistons. They're 2-21. Obviously, they have some pieces that I like, but that's not where I'm going to go from it on this one. What the hell does that mean, that if you don't score 10 points per game as a 20-year-old, that you're just automatically should be thrown in the trash at that point? What does that even mean?
He said if you score 10 points as a 20-year-old rookie, you're not my future, when he scored 10 points as a 20-year-old rookie.
Well, and honestly, and I don't
Think
know
about that. Like, what the hell?
Well, I don't know how old all of these players are, but you know who else scored less than 10 points a game as a rookie? Kobe Bryant, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Gary Payton, and Steve Nash.
What about Giannis?
Giannis, yes. All of them.
Ooh.
Every single one of them. So are we just supposed to throw them in the trash too, and they're not part of any team's future? That's what happens with rookies. Some of the best, I mentioned some of the best players who have ever played the game, particularly Kobe Bryant. Do you think the Lakers should have just given up on him? Oh, he only averaged 7 points as a rookie. Let's just say, nah. How do you think that would have worked out? It's just the logic of Gilbert Arenas with this is just so flawed and so dumb that I can't even take him seriously anymore. I think he's just mad that, and I get it. I don't want to take too many shots at Gilbert Arenas because injuries played a
take them all, please.
Well, but injuries played a large part in his career going downhill. But I think he's just mad that he's not going to make the Hall of Fame when he had that trajectory early on in his career. And I get it; it was mainly because of injuries. But when you say stuff like that, it just makes you look like an idiot. Especially when you yourself, Gilbert Arenas, you didn't come out like gangbusters either. It's not a requirement to have a phenomenal rookie year in order for you to be an NBA superstar. I mean, look what happened to Tyreek Evans. He won Rookie of the Year and did bupkis since. He went downhill from there. A rookie year is not really indicative of anything.
Or Jaylen Brown, who averaged 7 points.
Jaylen Brown, a great example.
Year,
we could go on.
And he couldn't shoot I mean, he shot low 30s, but he wasn't he attempted 1-3 a game. It wasn't like now we see Jaylen Brown now attempting 7 a game. So growth of a player, that's the NBA, man. It's player development.
Yep.
And Gilbert Arenas, that's why you don't work in a front
office. And
office.
it's like, compare their actual rookie stats, at least to this point in Asar Thompson's career. Gilbert Arenas, his rookie season, 10.9 points, 2.8 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists per game. Paltry. Asar Thompson, 10.5 points, 8.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game. It's like, what exactly are we talking about? His impact is felt in a lot of different ways. Sheesh, man. Let me
see the steals and blocks, dude. I'm telling you, defensively, it's not even close. Not even close. So I
was a defensive player, not even in the same stratosphere.
No. So that comment was dumb. But hey, Gilbert, especially in today's age, a lot of this stuff is for clickbait. That's just how it works, for clicks. He said that with the most smug look on his face, and it was funny because he actually thought he was making a great point, and he wasn't. He sounded confident as hell, but he was not confident, I'll tell you that. Now, let's go to break here. When we come back, I want to ask Kool-Aid a question about the losing streak, and if it continues, we'll ask that question and more. But first, we got to hear about our friends from Guardian Alarm.
Guardian Alarm, a great defense, kind of like Asar Thompson has been playing. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work, and people have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
Stay out, Gilbert Arenas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing.
G-G-G-G-A.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. There we go. Oh, cheers, buddy. I think we need to get you a pick.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Let me tell you about our friends at Fairway Packing Co. Sorry, I was just checking out this Pistons losing streak. Had my mind distracted,
Don't let me get
though.
in my zone.
Don't let me get in my zone. Fairway Packing, check them out. You can start your order today at fairwaypacking.com. And they're, again, Fairway Pack. If you're big on steaks, they have it. They're the best. You see the commercial with Ryan Ermanni. And who else but Ryan Ermanni? It's a perfect place for you to get your meats. Fairway Packing. Check them out, 313-332-5114. Of course, you visit that website right above, fairwaypacking.com. Prime beef, dry aged beef. All right, we're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. And it's time to get into the conversation. I was doing some research here because I wanted to make sure I got the this losing streak correct. Because it is bad. The Detroit Lions, over the last 20 games, they've lost every single one of them. Yeah, they have. You know what would have been smart? If you bet the opposing team's money line for the last 20 games, you'd be up some change. You might be able to pay rent, to be honest with you. It's at that point. The injuries, I don't give a damn. All the other stuff, I don't give a damn. They've lost, and they're about to break the record. They're going to break the franchise record, I believe, in one more loss. I could be wrong on that, Kool-Aid. And they're on track with a handful of more losses to break the NBA record for consecutive losses. Just a quick question. And by the way, it's 21 straight losses. The NBA record, this is Mike Payton, could be theirs on the 30th. Oh my gosh. What a Christmas present. Basically just shit right in my stocking. That's what happened. Thank you for that. And that's basically what Santa just took a shit right in my stocking. That's what that would mean. At what point does somebody come out and speak to the people? Like a Troy Weaver, Tom Gores, like besides Monty. I feel like Monty's speaking constantly. And again, he only can say so much. When does somebody above him come out and speak? Just a genuine question.
It would be nice to hear somebody like Troy Weaver come out and at least restate what the plan is. Despite the losing, even if it doesn't change the fortunes right now, it would be nice to hear from them. I get the sense that they're waiting until they can actually go in and make at least some complement of moves. That automatically brings a press conference that Troy will be at. But I'm with you guys. I would like to at least have them step out and say something to the media, man.
Yeah, I would expect, I would hope that, maybe even a Troy come out and just talk to the media, not write a letter. I don't want a letter. I want him to speak. And this is a man that Troy Weaver, he doesn't really speak to the media and to the people during the season. But to me, it's something they just have to do at this point. Like, you lose 21 straight games, dude. At least come out and just be like, hey, guys, this sucks. But yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Like, give something.
Right.
But instead you're letting people and writers, because people now are attacking beat writers like yourself. I mean,
it's crazy, bro.
You guys are getting attacked. James Edwards, Amari, all these guys. Yeah. Sean Murphy.
Mike Curtis.
Rod Beard. He's a little, Rod Beard's up there.
Corey Woods, too.
Corey Woods. All these guys are getting attacked for something they can't even control right now. And they're just reporting what they hear and all that stuff. But again, it is frustrating. Sam Flannel. Will the Lions win more games? Probably. Probably.
Honestly, at this point,
never thought I'd say it.
Yes, they will. And I know that sounds a little bit dramatic, but here's the thing. What can you really predict from the Pistons moving forward other than a loss? I'm looking at their schedule. I know this isn't something that we all should be doing, but hell, I'm going to do it. They have 3 straight road games coming up at Philly, at Milwaukee, at Atlanta. I'm pretty confident saying those will all be losses. And then they have their best opportunity for a win in the not so distant future. It's home against Utah on Thursday, December 21st. Maybe they can win that one, but we were saying the same thing in their home game against Washington where they got blown out. In their home game against Memphis where Desmond Bane almost put up 50. And even Utah. Does Detroit have a player on their team as good as Lauri Markkanen? Absolutely not. I mean, they got John Collins and they got Colin Sexton, who I'm not as high on, but still, the Utah Jazz, they're not a good team.
I don't give a damn.
What do you mean?
They could face the the Harlem Globetrotters. They're going to lose.
Well, yeah, and even moving forward after the schedule would play out. If they lose, they would have an opportunity to break the record at home against Toronto. Do you think Toronto, they're a team with a losing record, but they have Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Scotty Barnes? I mean, all these teams have these talented players, including the bad ones. And with the Detroit Pistons, even when they've had opportunities to face teams that you'd think they'd have good opportunities for a win against, they've fallen flat on their face. I think the best game they've played in this stretch was that game at New York against the Knicks. If they could have some of that energy at home against the worst teams, maybe they'll get a win. But at this point, I don't even know if it sounds bad. I don't even really know if I care that much. Just break the damn record at this point.
Yeah,
honestly.
I just want them to, honestly, at this point, the Pistons, not the Lions, excuse me. We talked a lot of Lions today, so I misspoke. The Pistons break the record.
Why not?
Yeah, what a storyline.
I almost feel like that would take a little bit of the pressure off of them in the games after.
Oh, yeah, be 2-80. Like, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun at this point.
Listen to this, Jeff. After Toronto, which would be their record-breaking loss, if it happens, they have a West Coast trip at Houston, at Utah, at Golden State, at Denver. Good luck. Good luck. As whoever the kidnapper was and taken. Good luck.
Yeah, yeah, Liam Neeson couldn't even save this team, even if they were taken. There's no way. Booner says break the record so it forces Tom to sell the team. What's your take on that? I don't think he's selling the team.
No, that's not going to happen.
So people
they've
keep
had a
saying
plan,
that. It's not going to happen.
I know people hate the plan or either haven't heard it or don't want to digest it. They have a plan, and I'm going to continue to say this. No matter how bad the product is currently on the floor, everything they have ahead of them is the best possible outlook we've had in literally 12 or 13 years. Good books, good cap space, good young talent that we just haven't had ever. The most we were ever able to build around was Drummond and Stanley, and that was going and getting an old Blake Griffin to put around them, which at the peak got us swept in the first round to the Bucks. 1 playoff win in 4 years under SVG, 1 playoff win under Dwayne Casey in 3 years. I don't want to watch that anymore. So for me personally, I was one of those guys after seeing the Grant Hill era, after seeing the just before going to work era, then seeing the going to work era, and then everything that happened after. I was one of those guys, especially after the process 76ers, who said, I would rather watch this team lose for 3 to 4 seasons, get your young talent base up, get your draft picks up, get your books right, and then come back in that 4th or 5th season and absolutely get things done. And that's the plan that they're taking. I don't believe that they intended to lose this much. The injuries have played a role. But just like last season, it seems like they're actually competing with San Antonio. The best spot, and it's going to suck to say this, but the best spot for the Pistons to be is locking up a top 5 pick in this year's draft. Especially with the type of moves they want to make next year.
And it's frustrating, like it is. But at the same time, the whole Tom Gore stuff, if you look at him as an owner, although the success hasn't been there yet, what I will say, and the credit I'll give to Tom, is two things. And this is where I think when people say, well, the Pistons stink, so Tom sell the team. I'll tell you why. Number one, he'll spend money. I'll tell you that. He went out and got Monty Williams, and he gave him whatever he wanted. So he'll get a head coach for you. I like that. The other thing is, he F's off. He doesn't get involved, right? Would you rather have an owner like David Tepper, who's always involved, or Jerry Jones? There has to be a balance. So for Tom, it's not even with Tom. If you want to come at somebody with the Pistons, to me, Sam, if you have a problem with the process, then go after Troy. Tom, to me, is like, what the hell? What can Tom do? He can speak to the people. I 100% agree with that if he can come out and speak. But at that point, to me, I appreciate that Tom will spend money and he will screw off when he needs to. He's not. I would rather have an owner that is kind of behind the scenes than a guy that's at the front lines demanding things to happen and making decisions abruptly. That's just how I feel.
And
about
Gores did talk kind of earlier in the season. He did give a press conference, and he spoke about exactly what to expect this season. He said he wanted to see them a lot more competitive, but
he
even
wants
if
to win.
not,
People have to understand he wants to win.
Yeah.
Like, you think Tom, dude, and this is I'm not even, and again, it turns into me defending Tom, but people assume that Tom sits there, buys the Pistons, and he's like, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose a lot. No, he spends money on Monty. He gets a damn good head coach. Everyone liked Monty when he was hired. So where are you guys at now?
Is he, though, anymore? Has he lost a step? Can he not coach a young roster, though? That's all I'm saying. Like,
well, he showed he could do it in
sure,
Phoenix.
He's had good moments, yeah.
But again, so now we're mad at Tom for bringing in many people call him the best coach, one of the best coaches in the NBA. Like, guys, let's be consistent here, okay? Like, let's be consistent here. Tom, if you want to go after somebody, I get Troy. You can go after Troy with how he's done the rebuild. I get that, even though I disagree. But Tom is just like, it's just going after somebody to go after somebody, in my opinion.
But here's the reality. This team isn't just bad. They are on track to being the worst team in NBA history. For people who want a pound of flesh, I'm not going to stop you from that. I'm not going to hate you for that, because this has just been such a morbid franchise over the past few years. I get it that they've made some draft picks that a lot of us like, but you even go back to the 2020 draft. I think that the Pistons did a good job at effing themselves with that draft when they go with Killian Hayes over Tyrese Halliburton, when you go with Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bey over Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickley. And I get it, those guys were not high up draft picks at the time or high up prospects, but still, when you're having a season in which you're 2-22 and looking to break the record for a losing streak, you look back at moments like that. And at this time, if you want a pound of flesh, I don't blame you. And at this point, I'm kind of at that point as well.
And I get it, losing causes that, but this is where I'm at. Like Booner, not when for 12 years they haven't won a playoff game. Yeah, no, it's frustrating, 100%. Booner also says, why are we defending Tom? Who's defending Tom? I just think you're going...
You kind of are.
I'm not. I think you're going after the wrong person. Like, what? Okay, I don't understand what Tom... Do you like Monty?
No, not
so you
right
don't
now.
So you think Monty's a bad coach?
No, they're 2-22.
I'm just... Again...
I get it.
In the NBA, it's not like the NFL, Sam. The NBA is based on talent. The NFL, coaching can overcome talent. Typically, always. The NBA, I mean, you could get Greg Popovich out there, you'd have a couple more wins.
Greg Popovich is on an 18-game losing streak.
See,
right now.
That's what I'm saying. So
18,
again, if you want to go after,
Pistons.
it's not Monty. Tom got Monty. If you want to go after somebody, I already said I think it should be Troy. So why? What is Tom? I mean, Swap the owner, you still got the same fucking product.
I know, but they haven't done anything in Tom Gores' entire tenure. That's all I'm saying is like, when it's this bad for so long, why are we... There is not one member of the Detroit Pistons, from their players, from their coaching staff, from their front office, from their owners, that I will defend in any way right now. I'm not saying that I hate everyone. I like Cade, for example. I like him. I don't think he has any help. I like a Jalen Duren when he's healthy, but as far as defending anybody with this product, no, I'm not going to do it. And
I'm not.
This is the worst. This could be the worst team in NBA history, not just normal bad.
I'm not defending the product. That is far from what I'm doing. I'm questioning why people are all of a sudden being like, okay, just change owners. Like, just change owners. That's going to fix this whole thing. Like, guys, Tom Gores, I said I appreciate how he actually kind of just steps back and lets Troy do everything. I like an owner that kind of doesn't get as much involved as some of these other guys, David Tepper, Jerry Jones. I prefer my owners to just hide in the background and throw money up when they need to throw money up. If you'd rather have a heavy involved owner, that's on you. That's something you prefer. I don't like that. I would rather an owner just be willing to write a check and fuck off. That's how I like owners.
I mean, that's fine, but like, I don't...
So how is Tom to blame when this is Troy's work?
Well, then I don't like Troy Weaver either.
There you go.
Right.
See, he took 10 minutes to come to this conclusion.
But let me ask this question. Do you like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey?
I like Cade. Jaden Ivey, I think the book is still out.
Do you like Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson?
I like Jalen Duren. Asar Thompson, I like some things about him.
Oh, all right, you Gilbert Arenas. Do you like Marcus Sasser?
I mean, he's fine, I guess.
See, no one likes anything when they're losing, and I understand that. Now, for Booner, he says, Mark Cuban is really unsuccessful, right, Jeff? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Booner.
Jerry Jones is also a very successful owner. I know recently, like, the Cowboys haven't won anything of substance, but in the 90s...
Oh, yeah, the 90s. Well, okay, I'll tell you this, Booner. How many Mark Cubans are there in the NBA? I'll wait. You can take as much time as you need. That's my point. Like, Mark Cuban's one of one, dude. Like, you're going to bring up the example. Okay, bring up another one. What about the New York Knicks owner? Huh? You want to go there? James Dolan? We'll go there. I'll wait. Would you rather have James Dolan? Okay, no. I'd rather my owner just cut a check and fuck off, dude. That's how the NBA should work. I'm cool with that. And now, you got to bring in the right guys. Of course, Troy Weaver, clearing the books. He's done all that. Great. But for if you want to blame somebody, you got to blame Troy. That's how I feel. Now, we can argue about it, but I don't hate people that want to go after Troy, but Tom, it's like,
I
to
agree
me,
with
that's lazy.
Because
like, what is he going to do?
Troy kind of put it on himself as well, but he also didn't just leave it at, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. This, to me, is the best collection of young talent that the Pistons have ever had. You have to go back to the Bad Boys to find anything commensurate of it. And even when they started drafting their young players, they still sucked for a little bit of time. This is just what happens in the NBA when you're trying to build from a small market. It just happens like this sometimes. With the young talent base they have, they can actually go forward now and make the right moves. But to get there, just like the process 76ers, you got to do a lot of losing to get there. And he hasn't just done the linear thing. It would be easy for the Pistons, especially with an owner like Tom Gores, to go out there and overpay a couple of people like Cam Johnson and others. And how bad of a signing would that have been in hindsight? That was the pick that everybody wanted last year. That's who everybody said they wanted Troy Weaver to go out there and give that man the bag.
I would rather have OG and Anobi this upcoming offseason.
I would too, but if you know that that's on the books and you still got somebody in the front office who now, in Dwayne Casey, who's not just scouting prospects, but this year started scouting NBA players, well, where does he have a connection to? To the Raptors organization. If I know, okay, I can get to next season and I can throw the bag at OG, that's what you do. And Troy, I don't think he has a problem with taking those bullets, but I also don't think that they thought people would not understand what's going on right now. And if you know you can get to next season and just flat out sign OG and then trade, because you got to get to that draft. Yeah. You can't trade that pick until it's conveyed completely.
Let me just say this real quick, because Booner is being a little childish now. I love you, Booner, but now you're getting out of hand. He says, okay, sorry, Jeff, Tom Gores is doing a great job. He has turned this team around the whole 15 years. Now you're, okay. My takeaway right now, if you guys want a type of owner I prefer, Joe Lacob in Golden State, never hear about him, but he'll cut the check. And he got a Bob Myers, and he just kind of steps back. That's my point, guys.
Joe Lacob and Tom Gores are so comparable.
See, okay.
I'm just
You're
saying
missing the whole point, dude.
I'm just here's let me
I'm
just
not
say,
comparing them as owners. I'm comparing them to just fucking off, Sam.
I get it, but
that's what I prefer.
But Booner, I'll
cut the check and fuck off. Hire the right guys.
I'll defend him because he's frustrated, because we're all frustrated. It takes some here's the thing. Coming into the year, I thought if they were healthy that this could be a team that won. My thing was 30 games, maybe 35. But sometimes when you talk about what can make your heart go black or something like that, or not understand certain things, it's having quite possibly the worst NBA team ever. Not this year, ever. With a record-breaking losing streak and maybe a 70-some loss season.
No, you're right. So Tom should just motivate the players. You're right.
Okay, fine, but do you not want a pound of flesh at some point?
But it's the wrong pound of flesh. That's the argument.
Then fire Troy Weaver then.
Okay, thanks, Sam, for coming to a conclusion.
All right.
That's my problem.
They should all go. Armtellum go.
See,
Everybody go.
That's where it gets ridiculous. If you have a problem with Troy Weaver, because again, guys, let me educate you. He's building this thing, okay? If you have a problem with him, that's fine. Tom Gores, what? If he's willing to spend a fuck ton of money to get the best coach available, yeah, I'm cool with that guy. And he fucks off, I'm cool with that guy. Now, would you like him to speak to the people? Yeah, I'd like that. But besides that, dude, really, you could bring up the antics, the t-shirts, and you could bring up all the other stuff. That's fine. But that's my point. If you want to go at somebody, go at Troy Weaver, dude. That's my point.
All right.
I'm not saying everyone's protected. I'm not saying that. But Tom Gores to me is just lazy. You're just Tom sell the team. Guys, he's not going to sell the fucking team. It's not going to happen. So let's try something else.
And if you fire Troy Weaver, where are you going from here? You're allowing another GM to come in, use the money to do exactly what? What Troy Weaver is going to do anyway? That's my whole notion. If a rebuild or a process, which we've seen this example in the past, we got the Philadelphia 76ers. We actually have the Pistons in our own history. It takes 4 to 5 seasons. They could have gone out and done what they did underneath SVG and the years prior. Who wants to see that anymore? I can understand from the class of people who haven't seen the going to work Pistons, they're ready for something to get cracking because they want to see what I got to experience. But I am telling you, everything since the going to work Pistons has been absolutely wrong. It's worth the investment to see what this regime will actually kick out in their first summer to actually go out there and build around. The one thing that we know that has fleshed out this season alone that we would not have known because Cade got hurt, is that Cade needs to be off ball. What if they went out there and they spent money in different areas on this squad, and then you put Cade back at this inefficient position? I do believe that there's something to when you're talking about building a team that you want to be able to turn on with the quickness to be able to be a commensurate contender. You take your time and you do this thing right. We've seen this team go out there and just splash money all over the place because that's what Tom Gores will do. He believed in the people he hired. Now you finally got a regime that is saying, you know what, let's take our time a little bit. And did they have one setback year? They did. When you lose who's supposed to be the franchise for a whole season, that has to matter to everybody, from the organization all the way down to the fans.
Well, this comment too, Brad says, Jeff must have an application over at LCA. Won't say anything bad. I just said if you want to blame somebody, blame Troy. Come after Troy.
I agree
That's
with that.
fine. Yeah. I don't know what that means. Clearly, you got to watch the show, Brad, because Troy Weaver deserves blame, Brad. He does. I'm not going to sit here and defend. But what am I have to defend? There's things maybe I disagree with, but trust me, Troy is not absolved from criticism, Brad. He deserves criticism.
I just think it's calculated risk.
That application I quote sent to the Pistons they're not looking at it because I believe Troy deserves criticism. But Tom Gores, to me, it's a dead end to me. That's why I don't get it. He's not going to sell the team. So what are you going to do? It's not like it's the fire Alavila stuff because Alavila, again, GM. I get that. He stinks. Get rid of him. Chris Illich won't spend money. I get that. Tom will spend money. He just, again, come after Troy. He's the one he's the cook here in the kitchen. That's all I'm saying, Sam. If you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at the cook because you're pissed off at the meal. You can't get mad at the guy who pays the chef to make the meal. You get what I'm saying? I don't know.
I'll get mad at all of them.
And then, Sam, you could pull that approach, too, and just say, F everybody, shut down the restaurant. That's fine.
We look at the Philadelphia 76ers today and over the last, I don't know, however many years since the process, and we look at how that absolutely worked out for them. And I believe that the Pistons have a little bit more talent that they'll be able to carry forward into the future than even what the Philadelphia 76ers were able to carry over from the process years. That's the only reason why I'm to a point where I'm like, okay, if Troy has got this thing to this point without having to mangle the freaking books, I'm okay with it. I literally am okay with it. I want to see this team win just as badly as everybody else. And if we want to have our pound of flesh, then it's like, so now what are we really going to do? We're going to just go out there and start firing people? Because what message is that going to send to the rest of the league? We went through 3 or 4 coaches in the last 3 or 4 years. We've gone through how many GMs in the last 3 or 4 years, or 4 to 5 years? Like, what exactly are we doing now? Now we look like an organization with no stability, an organization that does not want to see through your viewpoint. We've said this is the trajectory they put out there from the beginning, 4 to 5 years. If you didn't hear that in the beginning, and if you did not care to let that be a thing, then okay. But you're going to be sitting yourself on the outside. Honestly, why should they come out and speak to anybody that does not want to listen to what the actual plan is and said, strap up and get ready? All of these incremental signings were only to, at best, like you said, Sam, get them to like 30 wins. And I told you guys in the beginning of the season, if they face catastrophic injury, you can lower that expectation by a whole lot. They got hit with catastrophic injury. Bojan is a catastrophic injury. Jalen Duren is a catastrophic injury. Burke starting the season off injured. That was a big hurt. I'm not going to call that one catastrophic. But they didn't start off this season healthy. And last year, we keep talking about last year as if all their roster was kind of out. These things have to matter. If this was his full master plan and his full master work, and they were playing and this is how it was going, you would hear a little bit more out of me. But realistically, knowing everything that I've seen over the past 15 years versus where this team could be literally starting between now and the offseason, I'm saying, bro, let's just see what stew he's putting together. That's just it, honestly. Because if you fire Troy Weaver right now, which I do believe, he deserves the blame for right now, and he said it in one of our media scrums. He put it on himself. He put it on himself for right now.
He should be the one. He orchestrated this whole thing. So, like, again, if you're mad at the roster construction, Tom isn't with Troy going, hey, man, I think we should trade for this player. This guy I think would be a good pick. It's Troy Weaver. Like, that's the guy.
And it's not all on him either. You got Arn and you still got Ed, who
which other guys
they're
that maybe
above him. And when you kind of look at some of the moves, Killian Hayes was not Troy Weaver's pick.
Yep.
James Wiseman signed to the Wasserman Group. You can look at who in our organization used to work there.
100%. And now Booner saying the fans deserve to hear from the top. That's the one good point you've made, Booner. Like, yes, I agree with. He needs to speak. I agree with that. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll get in the mailbag. Get your questions ready. Sorry, KG, JB Smooth. We just skipped right over what's trending with JB Smooth unintentionally. We got to hear about our friends from Dispo, though.
Yes, experience Dispo Romeo, a team that curates an exclusive atmosphere mixed with fresh inventory from Michigan's largest variety of products. The first ever cannabis mall of its kind is conveniently located off of Van Dyke and 32 Mile Road in Romeo. Join them in celebrating this Christmas season. Hang out with Santa Claus, ho, 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 at Dispo Romeo every Friday and Saturday. Up until Christmas, don't miss out. Dispo Dispensary, DispoShops.com, your local cannabis plug.
We'll be there tomorrow.
Hey, Santa.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy? It's Planet Fitness. Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Dreaming of a new home but feeling the financial pinch? Mark White & Associates, your trusted real estate experts, are here to help. Mark White and his team will pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs. That's right, I said $5,000. Call Mark White & Associates today at 248-290-8242 or visit them at markwhitesells.com. Again, call Mark White today at 248-290-8242 to make your dreams come true.
Mailbag, let's get into it. Get your questions ready. Let's see. Eduardo says, Mailbag, can we get a going for the Pistons and the Broncos? Also, what is the crew's favorite ice cream? Can we get a going for a gong, excuse me. A gong,
Whatever,
excuse me. Yeah, for some reason I thought there was an I in there. A gong for the Pistons and the Broncos. Yes. And what is the crew's favorite ice cream? Sam, what's your go-to?
Rocky Road.
Rocky Road's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't have like a specific favorite. I like ice cream. I don't care what it is. Maybe cookies and cream. I'm cool with that.
Great choice.
What about you guys?
For me, it'll definitely be cookie dough. So
that's a solid one. What about you, Kool-Aid?
Hey man, pralines and cream.
Oh,
that's right, man.
Yeah, okay. I feel you. See people putting desserts. Coffee ice cream is goated. Let's see. Brandon says trade Jared Goff for LeGarrette Blount. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what, LeGarrette Blount, you play quarterback. I'm cool with that. Brad Hendricks.
Garrett Blount.
Shows up overweight.
Yeah, shows up overweight.
Sure.
Who are the Pistons retiring the Raptors next? Jonas Jerebko, Will Bynum, or Jason Maxill? Jonas. Hey, by the way, Jonas Jerebko, he's still in Detroit. He lives out here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's still out here, man. He's in these streets, and he still talks to Pistons fans. Maybe he can come back. We need a shooter. We do. Booner says, Mailbag, can we trade Goff for Will Levis? No. Will Levis, though, Booner, he's looking good, man.
No, shout out, Booner. And for the people that still think that he sucks, stop being stubborn. He's a good quarterback. I was wrong.
I thought Will Levis was going to stink.
I did too.
And he looks good.
Booner was just steadfast. This guy's good. And I mean, I guess you can't guarantee that he's going to be good moving forward, but if you deny that comeback against the Titans and then that 4-touchdown game he had in his debut, I mean, he uses DeAndre Hopkins. Sometimes you just got to throw it up to an elite receiver, and Will Levis has the arm to do so.
It helps to have a number one.
Yes.
And that's what, seeing Will Levis' success makes me excited for a future potentially with Hendon Hooker, because think of the situation Will Levis walked into. You have a run game, you got a number one receiver.
You do.
Hendon Hooker's going to have a run game, an offensive line, and a number one receiver. So, and the number one tight end, I mean, hey, you got a Sammy Laporta out there. Good situations, man. You need them for rookie tight ends. Or, excuse me, rookie quarterbacks. Travis says, shout out to Travis, by the way, man. He's killing it on socials. He says, Mailbag, can me and Flannel sit down and watch Jameson Williams all 22? I want to see him in shambles.
Shambles.
That's a good one, Travis.
What's the excuse going to be this week if he goes 0 catches for 0 yards?
Hey, well.
How many targets, though?
0. There we go again.
Yeah, that's true. That is fair. Let's see. Real Cream of Wheat says, tell Jonas to suit up. Yeah, I'm with you. Eduardo says, Mailbag, what do you need to see from Goff this weekend to get your faith back in him? No turnovers. That's all I ask. Just take care of the football, dude. That's in Cam Newton. He said it aggressively, but when he made the point about game managers, he's like, I'm not asking for all the splashes. Just don't turn the football over, dude.
Is it fair to say that there's nothing he can do this week that will restore my full faith? I think it'll.
Yes, that's fair.
It'll all play out as the season plays out. But I've even told you, as much as I'm like really, really upset with Goff and kind of halfway out the door when it comes to him and getting farther out the door, he has had games even recently where he's played turnover free and pretty well, and he does. Yeah. He is very, very good when everything around him is right.
Yeah. Also, quick tidbit: I heard that J-Mo liked that tweet that CD Deuce put up about Goff. So,
at least he's liking tweets for Goff.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, Sam. I think I've always known what Goff is. So even if he plays a clean game, I still don't think he's worth re-signing and losing other players.
Sure.
I just don't think so. But we'll see. We'll see. That's up to Brad Holmes. So not me. Let's see this comment here for you. Bronco 81, Mailbag Sam, JJ at 25-ish pick or resign Goff? So you go from game manager to game manager.
Yo, depending on the contract extension you'd have to give Goff, JJ.
In all fun though, I think JJ can be. We'll see. I think he's got an arm. He's mobile, but he's kind of a game manager.
There's a faction of people here, and I guarantee you, because you kind of see them with MSU fans when it comes to Hutchinson, that'll stop being Lions fans if J.J. McCarthy is their quarterback. I guarantee you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what. Ryan Ermanni believes he'll be the best quarterback in the entire draft class by far.
But that's the thing, though. You don't know that yet. He could be. That's not that crazy of a take. It's really not. He could be.
Yeah.
He's going to Vegas, man.
Unless Caleb Williams just dies, I think JJ definitely could be the best.
Caleb Williams has some issues, though.
You listen. It's like when you're dating a girl and she's got all these emotional issues. I don't give a damn. All right.
All right, that's fair.
You'll figure it out.
He's very talented.
If you're a young man and you're single and you meet a lady and she could be the future for you and she's got some issues, you just work through them. F it. You might figure it out. It's like Caleb Williams. He might paint his nails. All right, kind of weird. All right, he might cry to his mom. Not ideal. But guess what? I'll take him.
Everybody got something.
Yep. There you go, KG. That's a bar right there. Broder says JJ would actually be a pretty good pick with this team.
It's this fine Michigan man, Matt Broder.
I mean, he's mobile.
Yeah,
so
that's mobile.
Yeah.
He is mobile. Isaiah says mailbag Drake May isn't far from Caleb Williams. Drake May, man, he's got size. He's mobile. He's got an arm. I like Drake May too. Those are the top 2 quarterbacks in the class to me.
Yeah,
Caleb Williams and Drake May.
For sure.
Chuck Brewer says Ryan Leaf had more talent than Manning. How did that work out?
That's actually true. He had more
Chuck,
talent.
I know, but like, guys, Ryan Leaf, I mean, we could put the film side by side. Ryan Leaf he was slinging it. He was slinging it when he came out, and he had more talent. I get all that, and according to the Mel Kipers of the world, and I get all that, but still, come on. Like, you watch Caleb. Come on. You're a Patrick Mahomes guy. I'm surprised you don't like Caleb.
No, I like Caleb fine.
Oh,
I just some of those things were kind of red flags. I don't know if Caleb Williams is, as Colin Cowherd would say, quarterbackial.
That is one of the most, that term, quarterbackial. Love Colin Cowherd. Let's see. Goodfellas says, never put Stick back on the show. What happened? Was he on yesterday? He was on Big D Energy, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
Was he like, what was he saying? Everyone chill out, everyone calm down? I think he compared Goff to Caldwell, and then he said whoever you get next could be the Patricia.
No.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's fair. But I'm a little indifferent on Caldwell. Listen, I got a lot of respect for Caldwell. I just think that the Lions, it's not that I hate them firing Caldwell. It's what they did after firing Caldwell. That's where the mistake was. It wasn't firing Caldwell. It was hiring Matt Patricia. Because if they got the hire right, no one would be saying a thing.
Well, and the reality is the situations are completely different. For the record, like we love Stick. We love when he's on. He is definitely a slappy, and he definitely did the whole everything is awesome even after losses. But like, this is a team that already has such a good organization around. So I think I think that maybe even a quarterback like Hendon Hooker with the running game, with Amon-Ra, with Sam Laporta, with the offensive line, I mean, everything is kind of insulated.
Absolutely. I think it'd be a great show. It'd be a great situation for any young quarterback. Absolutely. Really quickly, I want to ask this question before we leave. And people chiming in. Brandon says, Sam does have great size. I can confirm.
I mean, I'm 6'2".
Yep, that is.
Pause.
Pause on that.
Big pause.
Big pause on that. Sir James says Stick is just a homer, and he's proud of it. Burns says Stick was gobbling golf hard. Well, pause on that, but that is fair. Eric Allen says, did I hear you guys are going to be at Dispo? We will be tomorrow. We'll be at Dispo. If you guys are in the area, come say hi. Come check it out, man. They got great products, but also we'll be hanging out there. So come say hi to the crew. And come hang out with us, man. Dispo, that's the place to be. They're run by great people. If you guys want to have a talk about starting from the top, Dispo at the top, man. They're solid dudes. Sean, Darren, Toby, all those guys, great human beings. Let's get out of here.
Can they GM the Pistons?
Potentially.
Right.
Those guys would be stoned off their asses. I'll tell you that. I
think Sean could GM.
Sean, yeah, he'd be firing guys, trading people. I think you'd like him, Sam. He'd be firing everybody. You'd like that. All right, let's get out of here. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you tomorrow at Dispo. We'll be on location. Appreciate your presence and supporting the program. You guys have no idea how much we appreciate it for being loyal and sticking with us all throughout the BS and the changes to the Morning Woodward show. You guys tuning in on a consistent basis, man, I appreciate it more than you know on a personal level. Super Juggernaut 87 says, Jeff, that's how you end up sad and killing yourself. Just push through a girl's problems. Well, okay, maybe I was a little exaggerating there.
Depending on said problems.
Depending on the problems.
Don't push through red flags. But nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got a good one. I got a good girlfriend. I'm very proud of what I got at home. Anyway, let's get out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Big D Energy, Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, Heavyweights, and of course, Woodward Nights. Check them all out. Great programming. We'll catch up. Deuces. Pete.